Jay Reeve.
Oh,
welcome,
fellas, I'm excited.
Between two beers.
This was the halcyon days of MTV. Russell Brand walking around with a heroin dealer 5 meters behind him, you know? Like, it was that time. Like, This was fucking proper pandemonium. That I cannot say because I'll get thumped by Viacom. Dunc's one of the greatest broadcasting minds, in my opinion, to ever exist. I've got the idea, he can articulate it into the platform that we're on. And the plan was me spraying at the wall and Dunc formulating it into what would work. It's that perfect relationship. The weirdness of going into a fertility clinic and like sitting on a leather chair that you know that 1 million people have on. Because it's like, this is probably a bit too much information, but the anatomy of a man's body, an erect faces towards you and you have to capture it in a cup. So how the is this going to work when I need to hold on to this?
It looks like you've got it all, right? Like business success with pals. But there's a chapter here where things aren't going well, right?
Yeah.
Like we hear of the business success, but there's some pretty heavy business failures in here. Can you tell us a little bit about some of these tougher times?
Totally. So there's...
Hey team, this week we talked to Jay Reeve.
Jay Reeve is that guy. He's a broadcaster on The Rock. He hosts the Not For Radio podcast. He used to be on ZM and Hodaki. He worked for MTV. He was a longboarder. He was a teacher. And we get all of his best stories in this one.
Yeah, there's a lot of swear words in this one. So if you've got young ears in there, maybe get them to swerve this one. But Jay's a guy we've been wanting to have on for ages.
Yeah, he's a world-class storyteller and some of the yarns in this are epic. So hang around. This episode is brought to you by the TAB. Got a hunch? Download the new app today and get your bet on. Jay Reeve.
Oh,
welcome.
Shit, fellas, I'm excited.
Between two beers.
It's been
a long time in the making.
It really has been, and I've just got to start by saying thank you so much for creating a space for all of this to happen in the first place. You know that I've been easily one of your biggest fans and biggest advocates for the work that you do. I think it's absolutely spectacular. I love seeing you guys up in lights. I love seeing you get the acknowledgement that you deserve for the hard work that you put in, and it's literally an honour and a privilege to be sitting here in the same studio as you two lads, and then sharing that same space that all these iconic Kiwis have been through. So thank you very much.
Oh, he's done it. He's done it straight away.
Start, Jay. It's a weird relationship we've got, right? Because I feel like I know you well, and you probably feel the same. But this is only the second time we've actually met.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah,
we met at this TAB launch and kind of like connected in person. But I feel like
this time a year ago at the Radio Awards.
Yeah, okay, third time.
Yeah.
But because of the way you communicate and send messages and things, like there's this real sort of closeness. So you hosted the Tanya Dalton Foundation Gala Dinner the year before us.
Yeah, an incredible foundation, incredible people.
And you sent us a message afterwards. It's like, hey lads, I've just got off stage. The most incredible night. Like people were talking about the Dwayne Dalton podcast in it, and had really nice things to say about you. I've recommended you MC the next one, and we did. But the tone and the way you spoke about it, and just like the outpouring of love in the room, and it's been a constant with your messages. You know, you'll listen to an episode and you'll send us a really thoughtful message on my 40th birthday. You know, you're richer than a king. Like the way you have with words, just I don't know, it develops really close bonds.
Thank you very much. Well, I'm glad that it doesn't come across as contrived, because some people think I'm really full of shit. So that's and I mean, there is a certain portion of me that is definitely full of shit, but that definitely not when I'm having these conversations. I guess the rationale in behind it and the reason why I do that is because I don't want people. Well, if you think something and you think something nice about somebody, let them know, because so often people will tell you when something's not quite right, or when you aren't being your best, or when something's a bit shit. And this is kind of one of these ethoses that I've tried to pick up. I've been surrounded by great people that tell me all the time when they're really impressed by something that I've done, or are great at propping me up when I need them, or passing on some words of advice. Like, I'm surrounded by amazing humans. Like, I'm literally the fucking luckiest person I know. I swear, genuinely surprised I haven't won lotto.
Well, because it's not 15 million.
Yeah, it's got to get 15 mil. Yeah, I don't buy it unless it's 15. It's a number that's been in my head since I was a kid, which is weird because it never even got up to 15 when I was a kid.
This is going to be a cracker, and we're going to get into some real themes of sort of brotherhood and friendship. But to start with, on that TDF gala dinner, like we had to follow you, and you got a fucking Warriors tattoo on your lip, and we had to follow that out. Can you tell us about what happened there?
Yeah, so I got the, you won't want to be able to see it, but this is an audio lead piece, isn't it? So that made no sense. Good. What a pro. So there was a I think it was the one box got put up for grabs. I think it's 36 people, fully catered, you and your mates, basically, big send. And it was, the auction price was at maybe 10 grand or something. And so I was on stage, and as I do, I don't think things through generally. That's my favourite part. My favourite part is emceeing, like being on stage with a microphone in a big room like that. Particularly, that size is great because there's still interaction, and you can pick people apart and drag people into things and make stuff up about people and just kind of go rogue. And so I just said, if this gets to $40,000, then I'll get an up the wires tattoo. And some guy stood up and goes, yep. And I was like, I was like, that's a jump. That's like a 30K jump. And so then it was like, afterwards, Dwayne's like, cheers. Like obviously you can probably moonwalk out of that. And I'm like, if I moonwalk out of that, like not only does that make me look shit, but like I'm representing you in this as well. So yeah, jam my head through the hole in the wall at the, I think it might have even been with a tab, I'm pretty sure. At Sylvia Park, they're doing free tattoos. And so I was like, fucking, here's my opportunity.
Yeah.
Why the inside of the lip?
Because it doesn't hurt because I'm a pussy and you can't really see it. So
Yeah.
And it is kind of a bit of a...
It's a statement.
Yeah, and it's one of those things like when people go, oh, you've got an up the wires tattoo, and I'm like, yeah, I've got one, and you pull down your bottom lip and it's on the inside of your bottom lip. They're like, fuck, it's like committed.
Yeah.
It's way less committed than getting it on your neck or like across your shoulder blades or Barnett tramp stamp style, style.
So yeah, we heard that story and it's like, well, that's the act you got to follow. So we ended up dressing up like a bearded woman, and Shay was topless for the night.
Yeah,
and we sung
that's
it.
not
We
in my
sung a song.
wheelhouse. Yeah. We did sing a song. It was a hell of an experience, hell of a night.
And everybody loved it because it's just a room of great human beings that are celebrating the life of one of the most magical women and sort of carried along with her journey with Dwayne, who's just, as you know, one of the greatest humans to ever grace the planet.
So, as we said, we've been excited to have you on for a long time. And I saw something on your social media. This was a couple of months ago, and it was you and a couple of mates, and you had your shirts off, and you were hugging by a waterfall.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, when we get Jay on, I want to hear about what this is.
Yeah.
Like our pod, The Space, leans into developing closer relationships, especially with men of a certain age. And it feels like you are working towards that, and you've got a really cool blueprint that I want to talk about. So can you tell us about the AA weekend and how it all came about?
Yeah, so the AA weekend is... it was actually the brainchild of... it was a collective brainchild of myself, a buddy of mine, Dog Tit, and then Logan Dodsy.
Is it Dog Tit or The Dog Tit?
Well, so just to cover off that, so at Surf Club, everyone basically got nicknames. So there's like Hubnut Trev, Dog Tit's another one, Simo, the classics, Muncher. And so Dog Tit, our friend Adam, had gynecomastia tissue build-up, which is what most kids get when they're going through puberty. Most boys get it, and then it sort of gets absorbed back into your system. I had mine so long that they got cut out, and so I've got nothing in behind my nipples. They're like shot glasses,
right?
And so I had them for ages, but Dog Tit had it for 3 months and just had one, and he had less than me, and I had it way worse than him, but he got called Dog Tit, and it fucking stuck.
Yeah.
So he, at the age of 14, he got this nickname that he had Dog Tit for 3 months, and now he's running down 40, and he's still called the Dog Tit. So
good clarification.
Great. I mean, it didn't clarify. It's either Dog Tit or The Dog Tit. So it sounds like it's The Dog Tit.
Dog Tit. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. He just goes by DT. We've shortened it now, so it makes it easier. And so it was about 3 o'clock in the morning, and we were fucking cooking with gas at this stage, and it was after actually DT's wedding, and Dodsy's quite good. He's quite a philosophical guy. He is probably the catalyst to 90%, probably 100% of anything good that I do for myself. Like, he was the one that introduced me to Nigel Beach. Even when I was living in Mount Maunganui, I hadn't met him. It was my first ice bath, the breathwork piece. He always creates space for his friends and himself to be better. He sets a standard, and that's one of the most impressive things about him. Like, he's fucking cut like a school lunch. Like, he's a fucking monster. I'm hoping that now he's had a kid, he goes to shit like the rest of us. But he works hard, and he is just a beast of a human. So we were sitting around pretty steamed, and it was like, well, we're really good at this. Like, I would consider myself a great companion on a bender. Like, I thoroughly enjoy it. Like, I really rip into it. And so we're great at this, but what are we not so good at? And we're probably not the best at looking after our bodies, testing ourselves physically, deepening relationships, getting past the surface shit. And so the AA weekend was born of that. So we picked a date, and the first one we went on was, ironically, we flew to the Wave Park in Melbourne and then flew up for a Warriors game in Sydney. And we're sitting there on the rocks over the Bondi golf course, which the cliff tops here in Sydney, if you've never been to them, are just impressive. So it was sort of no piss. There's a whole bunch of rules that go with it. It's carry good energy into each space, like hug the boys, tell them that you love them, let your partners know that you care about them every single day, send them a message, which is something that I've carried on. Carry good energy into a space, look to help people out where you can, cold showers only, breath work every morning, really use it as an opportunity to offload any shit that's going on. And it's an open space where you can go, are you looking for practical advice on this or just emotional support? And we'll shut the fuck up. And so it was good. The boys really started unpacking. Dog Tits, one of the youngest ever professional firefighters. And so he has seen some horrific shit, as do all the fence people that are still in operation. They, how they fucking put their head on a pillow at night without that running through their head. If you've seen shit like that, I'm 0 from 3 in CPR. It's not a great record. I've had people die in front of me. And it's one of those things. If you're doing CPR, and this is how I justify it, if you're doing CPR on someone, their heart is stopped, which means they're fucking dead. So anything that you do is hopefully heading in the right direction. So I can justify that way. But when you turn up to somebody taking their own life, or a fucking house fire and someone's caught inside of it, or multiple car accidents, that's your every week, there's a lot of callousing that happens to your soul. So he's been like an onion and slowly unpacking stuff, and out of all of us, he's the one that's grown the most over this. So we just wrapped up our 4th one. So it's 4 years. It's a long-standing tradition now. Money goes aside. One of the boys picks it every year where we're going to go. First one was in Manly, like I said, finished up in Manly. So we sat there, and it was the whale migration season. So we're sitting there, and we were sort of talking through all this shit, and it started getting pretty deep. A bit of silence, and then in front of us, this fucking ginormous whale came up and breached, and it was kind of like, we took it as a sign of we're on the right track here, and there is an acknowledgement from something greater than ourselves that we're doing good stuff here. And then the sea just lit up, I'm talking 100+ whales breaching and fucking dancing in front of us, and we're onto something here, fellas. Let's keep this going.
There might be some listening hearing the abbreviation AA and thinking it's Alcoholics Anonymous, but it's not, right? Is it altitude and attitude?
Yeah. So you've got to test yourself. There has to be a physical component to it, and it's the attitude in which you bring into it as well. So you need to be open and forthcoming, and so that was sort of so when I say I'm off on AA, everyone's like, fucking classic. But it's like how often. Obviously, your situations are different when it comes to booze, but when I head away with the lads, it's generally, and like most lads, I'd say it would be heavily focused around, for the most part, sinking piss. There may be some physical activity in there as well. You might go for a round of golf, you might go and stay somewhere, you might be going snowboarding, skiing, whatever the fuck it is, but generally speaking, there's a steam up in there somewhere. And when that happens, stuff's said, sometimes it's not remembered. It was maybe the only opportunity that you had to open up to the lads and let them know about stuff. And sometimes it's really, really hard, really hard to tell those people closest to you the deepest, darkest shit. I get people messaging me, telling me stuff that they don't even tell their own family because they've never met. They're on the other side of the planet. They just kind of think that I'm a fucking decent enough bloke that will take it well. And that's an honour. But it's easier to tell sometimes a stranger than it is to tell your own mates shit that's going on in your life. Yeah. So we kind of wanted to dig into that, model it out, and it's been awesome.
So we do a 12 pubs a Christmas pub crawl, and it's merged into something similar, but it is surrounded by a fucking shitload of piss.
Yeah.
And I love the sound of this and moving away from it and making it more sort of focused. And I just
the rules themselves, we put them up on, after the first year we talked about it. And this is one of the the rock audience in particular doesn't get the probably the praise in which it deserves, because they just give a fuck. They really do. And it's really heartening to be around. So you put it up there, you'd assume, the general assumption would be, you put that up and everyone's like, oh, what a fucking nice one. You know, you go and have a latte, get it stirred with a dick, you pussy. You know, that sort of carry on. But everyone was like, mate, I'd love to know those rules. I'd love to replicate this. I'd love to replicate the weekend with my mates.
I was about to say, so Roger's not a fan? I thought it was kind of reasonable, Rog.
Yeah, but it's amazing how many people have picked it up. We put it out there on an Instagram post and it went bananas. Like, people loved it.
I want to put the weekend rules in the show notes of this. Yeah, but I want to read out. So Logan sent us like the comms that go out, and I think this is such a big part of it. It's the focus and the clarity of what this is. So it says, as we near to embark on Altitude Attitude trip number 2, 15 months on from the founding trip, changing the narrative on your normal lads trip, a reminder of why we created AA, to become better men on an ever-changing manhood journey. In the midst of dealing with the stresses of everyday life and constant shit curveballs throw at us, we all have a common goal to strive to be better men, for ourselves and nearest. This is an opportunity in the chaos to better ourselves, free of judgment, and bath in the love we have for each other. By no means this is a piss-drinking trip. Let's use the time to enjoy each other's company, the beauty of life, and unlock some progress to move forward in our ongoing quest to be better men. Love you boys like brothers. I ask one thing which we'll circle back to think about over the next couple of days. What are the 3 most important things in your life? Like, that sets the tone.
Yeah. Mate, and he doesn't fuck around, and that's like, it makes the hair stand on end for me. You know, he's it all fucking makes me get emotional. Like, he is a real special human, and it's been really, really impressive to see the growth from the boys. And fuck, we've held some mirrors up to ourselves. Like, I don't know if the boys probably told you this instantly breaks I fucking almost killed us.
This has been brought up, and we are keen to dig in because I think there's some wider reflection at the end of the day. So what happened?
Yeah, so everyone takes a trip and plans a trip. So Dodsy did the first one. The second one, Dog Tit took care of, and we went to Raro, went game fishing, got tuna, got it all served up, walked straight up and over the mountain, up through the middle of Rarotonga itself, and it was like fucking, we were doing primal screaming and breath work, and fucking the boys had me at the gym, and it was all good stuff, snorkeling with whales, the same whales that we saw go past the year before, and they're like, rightio, Reeves, you're up, and I am an ideas guy with fuck all follow through. Okay, so I'm the blue sky thinker, and I need an army of people behind me to make shit happen, because I'm just definitely not into details, and it's a very she'll be right sort of attitude. Fuck, we'll be able to wing this anyway. So the abbreviated version of my weekend was, friends of ours, Jeff and Jussie Ross, have Lake Howea Station, and it's this beautiful, like, it holds a very special place in my heart. And there's a hut out the back, which is sort of a 10k hike, but it's up and over a mountain range. Like, it's a hike. It's a fucking hike, a big, pretty hectic bit of kit. So I called Jeff and was like, how would you feel about the boys coming down? We'll do a hike over, then we'll do a bit of a guided hunt. The boys had never been hunting, and it's something that I'm really passionate about. And so I got us kitted out head to toe in the latest, greatest hunter's element gear, and fucking packs the works, like we're all good to go. And as we're coming over, the comms have been from me, because the boys, you don't ask. You turn up and you get whisked along on the weekend. You don't book your flights, you don't do any of that stuff. And so it was a pretty sketchy setup anyway. I'd been there a bit earlier because we'd been, Anna and I were down for an event. And so instead of training for this thing, I'd just been hammering piss and just been a pig. And in my head, I was like, hey, we'll go breeze up and over this thing. So Jeff's like, what's your fitness level like? What are the boys like? The boys are fit as fuck. Dodsy's coming off 75 hard, like he's sprinting through brick walls. Dog Tit's just always fit. He runs, pushes tin, like he's an athlete. He could still lace up. He played, good footy to a good level for a long time. And I was like, thereabouts. And he's like, there's been a dump of snow over the saddle, so we can't get you up. Like, the ideal scenario would be to hike out there, then get picked up by the side-by-sides the day after. And so he's like, the saddle's kind of closed in, so it's like fucking a metre of snow up there, we can't get through. But you'll hike, so get some spikes on the way in, because you're going to be cramponing up to this thing. And I was like, oh, fuck, this is pretty spicy. So boys turn up, fucking rightio, we're swinging through to get some gloves and warm stuff, and we're going to get these spikes. And the boys like, spikes? What the fuck? And I was like, it'll be sweet. And I was like, oh, we're going to race over and get some groceries. And they're like, you didn't even sort the groceries out. And so we're just kind of running around. I'm just throwing shit in. And we're only out there for a night. This is going to be great stuff and very fast and loose. And the time that we were allowing ourselves was quickly diminishing. So instead of hitting the hike at like 9 o'clock in the morning, which was kind of almost the plan, it was now 2 o'clock. And one of the lads that sort of guides people out there was like, hey, you know, if you can leave it till tomorrow. And I was like, nah, we're doing it tonight. We're going to get out there. And he's like, well, you got head torches because you'll probably be getting there just on dark. And so we're ripping the tags off the stuff that we've got, like throwing it on. The boys have never worn it. And he's talking me through because we got like an EPIB, you know, like a
personal locator beacon.
Personal locator beacon. And he's like, this is how it works. I'm like, yeah, sweet as, mate. Fucking, buttons and fucking all the rest of it and packing our shit up. And he's like, I'll drive you up as far as we can and then you guys can hit it. And so we get up and then it's like almost vertical, this hike. It's a fucking proper goat track. And so on goes the pack. They're about 20 kilos each. You know, we're carrying quite a bit here. I'm 115 kilos of shit life decisions. And so we start marching and I'm within 10 minutes because I just march and the boys are like, they call me Uncle Jay. This is great stuff, Uncle Jay. Fucking leading by example. 15 minutes, I'm blown to smithereens. I'm toast. And we're knee deep in snow. And Dodsy's like, give me your pack, you lazy fuck. I'll take this up to the top and then you can carry it out from here. So we'll break the back of it, hit the saddle. We get up to the saddle, which is the last bit of cell reception. We call back in and he's like, shit, it took you a little bit longer than I thought to get up there. And I was like, oh yeah, I've Dodsy carrying my pack, you know, fucking carrying. He's like, I would suggest at this point you should probably pull pin and come back down. I'll pick you up and you have another crack at it tomorrow. And I was like, no, we're on the way. But I hadn't really taken any of the instructions. I didn't know exactly where the hut was. I had a general idea where this thing was. But we get up to the top. I'm on the phone, so the boys don't hear the concern. So every step of the way, everyone from the farm was going, this is not looking like a great idea. But because I'm mates with Jeff, he wasn't going to pull rank on me. So, you know, it's kind of like, well, you know, his suggestion was strongly, don't keep going, you're fucking useless. And so we start marching off down the other side. Sun's out, this is looking great. And the fizz levels are back up there and the pack's back on and downhill we're going good. The knees are fucking shattered at this stage 'cause I'm just useless. Dodsy's like, this is great stuff. And we're chatting away and kind of getting into the scheme of things. Sun starts to drop down and I assumed that by the time we got down into this little basin that we're dropping into, that's where the hut would be. Like the elevation on this thing, it's a proper mountain. Like when you see it on a map, you go, fuck. And so we get down into the basin, sun's starting to drop down. And then it's like at this stage, because they're going, where is this thing? The dissension had begun. And so I was like, I've got no idea. And they're like, fuck you, Reevesy, you fucked us on this thing. And it's almost dark and we're not going to find this place and we're going to be out in the snow tonight. And I was like, possibly. In my heart of hearts, it was like, if it wasn't in this basin, it would be up over the next ridge and in, because when you're pushing animals, you generally hold them at the bottom before going up and over things. So with my very limited sheep farming knowledge, that was the assumption I was making. But at this stage, they weren't trusting me with anything. And so Dodsy goes, it's getting dark, I'm going to drop our pack and I'll run up and have a look over the top and see if I can see it before we lose all light. And he gets up, turns around, comes back and he's like, I can't fucking see it. We're going back up and over and we're hiking out. And I was like, fuck, I'm pretty fucked. And so he's like, we're going. And so he starts stripping stuff out. We had some beers in the pack. They are the first things to go. And we had some steaks. We had these steaks in the pack. And he pulled them out. And because I can understand leaving beers there, because you go, the boys will pick these up on a muster and they'll be good to go. And so he pulls these steaks in. I was like, leave the steaks in. And I'll never forget it. So him and Dog turned around and looked at me and said, shut the fuck up. You've carried fucking nothing and we're not leaving these things here. And I was like, oh shit, fucking back in the corner we go here. Get your pack on, arsehole, we're going. So I chuck it back on. Sure enough, 10 minutes in, I'm fucked. And now we're eating a 9-kilometre hill climb, 10 steps at a time. Dodsy's running 2 packs again. So he's like a mountain goat, not stopping, just keep fucking marching, one foot in front of the other. My legs are destroyed. I'm cramping up. My hands have got massive bruises in the palms from me pushing on the walking sticks. And Dodsy's just eating this thing up going, if we don't get out of here, we're going to die. And it was like, the boys got pretty heavy. Dog Tit was like, fuck this guy. Like, I've known him pretty much most of my life. He's like, I'll never find this fucking funny. I'll never, ever find this funny. Keep fucking moving. And at that point, Dodsey rolled into this amazing leadership position where he doesn't normally operate. Like, he kind of sits in behind. He's very good at driving things, but he doesn't like to be the one that's at the front of it all. And so he stepped up like no tomorrow. And basically, he lost his father at a young age. And so the sky was beautiful. It was like an open, clear night. And he was just looking up going, Dad, bring us home. And he just fucking, dog tit basically had pneumonia. And so his lungs were running on about 10%. I'm fucked. And Dodsey's just like, keep a fucking one foot in front of the other, asshole. Get in my fucking footsteps. We're not stopping. And we basically dragged up and out. But the whole time I'd been pressing this locator beacon, letting them know that we were fucked. Well, what I thought was fucked. But I'd just been updating them on where we were. And so because when you get to where you're meant to go, you hit a green light, which means that you've made it safely. Because I hadn't hit it by 6 or 7 o'clock, they're now starting to mobilise on what needs to be done if they need to come in and get us. And so it started locate updating on the way back up the hill. And so they're like, fucking sweet, the boys are walking out, like mellow.
Yeah.
And so we were assuming that they were coming from the other side, that they were going to meet us, hot chocolates, grab our packs off us and march us all out. So we get to the saddle, top of the saddle where we get reception, and I call and they're like, oh, we're just at the homestead. And the boys are losing it. Like, what the fuck? You know, like casting blame left, right and centre. And then we have to walk down the goat track. And at this stage, it feels like my knees are just disappeared. And bone on bone, just grinding it out. Like legs are dead and fucked. And the boys had kind of marched off. And she's pretty silent and somber. And we got picked up by Jeff and the team, and we got dropped back out. And they fucking had it soaked in a hot tub, and like cooked those fucking steaks you wanted to make. So I was, I was pretty sheepish, and it rattled me. Like it really rattled me. Dog Tit had just had a baby, and Dodsey was obviously like a champion in the whole thing. But he's like, they honestly, it's at points in the trip thought we were going to be out there in the snow and that we were going to die, and I was like, this is a great reminder of the lack of attention to detail that I have, which is not normally a problem because I can get myself out of trouble. But there was no way of talking my way out of this. There was no way of buying myself out of the situation. There was no favour that I could pull from anyone that I know that would fucking get us out of there other than our own 2 feet. And it was, a real close mirror to my face about the lack of care that I've taken for my body, probably the overindulgence in which I have in life, a real lack of skill set around being organised and just thinking things through, because I'm just like fucking on to the next. And for the boys, it was a real rattler as well. And so Jeff came around, and Jeff is just one of the greatest humans that I'm so lucky to call a friend, like so lucky to call a friend. He's been an idol of mine since I heard about his story. I worked for free for him when I first moved to Auckland, just so I could be around the guy. Like, he's such an inspiration, and he just reframed it so perfectly for the fellas. Like, he's like, you've done something that not many people could do, and you did it together as a group. And yes, you're going to learn a lot from this, and you would have learned more from this than if it actually went to plan. And kind of reframed it to the point where the boys like, this is the fucking worst trip of my life, and fuck you, Jay. Like, this is tough to be mates with you too. This was the greatest learnings that we've ever had, and the only way that you can show that you've learned from this is if next year you come back and you're not as shit and you are more organised, because that's how you show respect to us. Like, you almost fucked us, and if you don't improve, then you don't care about us. So it was a goodie. It was an absolute rattler. And then the next day the boys went out, we saw animals, and they had a shot on something but didn't drop anything. But we got the boys into hunting, and Dog looks after a business, like he's got a cabin business which looks after the whole of the East Cape, and so he's out there hunting with the locals, and like he's discovered a new passion. And Dodsey's like, I could never kill anything, but he's like, this is fucking great stuff,
That's such an epic story. So we spoke to Dunc about what some good yarns are to tell, and he highlighted that one, and he kind of said that Jay is kind of a she'll be right, his whole life is she'll be right, and it kind of has been right. And that one kind of like exactly what you said, reframed, oh, fuck, actually, I need to sort of like wake up a little bit. Has it actually changed the way you do things since then?
It definitely has. There'll be people that will debate that heavily. My wife would be one of them. Dunc would be another. But it's all of these weekends, and I think it's about, it's kind of almost getting stamps, like as you travel through life, you learn things and you get things from from people you meet and situations that you put yourself in. And it definitely has, that was the correcting, that was the begin of the correction for me, I think, that there was a real acknowledgement that at 40, whatever I was in, 41, the carcass is shit. Like, there should be a base level of fitness for a bloke of my age. And it's not because Dodsy and Dogtit, they love going to the gym, up at 4:30, at the gym by 5, go and smash it out. Fuck that. But that's not my cup of tea. And I understand and appreciate that's theirs, but I just don't want to do that. I want to have a base level of fitness, which means I could probably trot 5 to 10 Ks, do 100 press-ups, 100 sit-ups, something to that effect. Something that's manageable for me to carry on into my sort of life. And so, that was sort of the start of me trying to be a bit healthier and going for runs with my kids, and then a sort of habit stacking and getting to spend time with them, and walks and saunas and ice baths with the boys. And that's how the group, the Gypsy Kings, came about, because we'd crash into JK's place, and his missus fucking hates people that don't wear shoes, because it's like, God invented feet, Italians invented shoes. It's like the old saying. And so I'm walking up, he's got a steep driveway, I walk up his driveway backwards, so I'm working on my knees, and she's like, what the fuck? And then Carlos, one of the other lads, comes up in a towel poncho on an e-bike, and then we're all doing breath work in a garage, and comes down. Pharrell's obviously Italian, and JK would probably consider himself as Italian as well. And so she comes in and fucking sprays him, like real passionate Italian, and sort of walks out and shuts the door. And JK goes, oh yeah, so Pharrell said, good morning, boys. But that was the catalyst for it. And then the latest one was probably the thing that rounded it all out for us when we went overseas and had this toad session, which was pretty spectacular stuff. It was fucking awesome.
We're going to bring JK in towards the end, because I want to dig in there. Just before we get into the Jay Reeve story, there's a couple of little, again, friendship things I just want to touch on. So Ollie Hitchcock was telling us about the 6-second hugs. Yeah. And we wanted to ask you what that was.
Well, the 6-second hug, it's, there's a combination of it. So there's once again, like, I love to read, like I love to learn shit, basically. And so there's a guy that we spoke to called TJ Power, and he's written this book called The Dose Effect, which is an acronym for dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. And so he is a neuroscientist and a man very much after my own heart, like a rat bag, and he was wondering why he did the things that he did. There's thousands, tens of thousands of years of your brain being developed a certain way, like, whether or not we want to acknowledge it, at some stage we'll be able to trace ourselves back to some hairy fuck in a cave, like.
No, don't look at me. It's over there. You fingered the wrong man.
Yeah. So there'd be someone in a cave that we were related to that was clubbing a fucking woolly mammoth and building a fire. And so dopamine sort of fires up in your body. And the first thing you get up in the morning, and building that fire, sort of really raises it up, and then you head out as a group to go and slay an animal to bring it back to feed the family, and that's the oxytocin part, where you share in a collective challenge with people, and it brings you closer together. So if I look you dead in the eyes for 15 seconds, we start building oxytocin within our body, which is me telling you that we're okay. And as lads, this is a little bit tricky, because also part of that programming is that we look at each other like that. You're going, you're sizing me up to either fuck me or fight me here. So both. And so the 6-second hug is a way of building oxytocin and connecting with people. So if you just bring it in, you hug to a certain extent, handshake, whatever it is, fist bump, that's one thing. It does build it up. But a 6-second hug moves it past that real base level and really starts to build connection, like a chemical connection between two people. Your body goes, well, this person's holding me long enough. And that's why we do those things with our kids. Like, we hold our kids, because that's how you build connection with your kids. It's the oxytocin, which is what makes them go, oh, you're actually all right. You're here to look after me. You're not, you don't have any ill thoughts towards me. And that's why our kids generally look like us. The first ones look like us as dads. So you don't go, which fucking caveman's been pumping. That's the general sort of connection with the kids. So he did a great job of explaining it in layman's terms. And so when we hug in this, in the AA setting, there's the Aboriginal, Indigenous people of Australia, First Nations people of Australia, they hug with, you know how we normally hug with our heads to the left, I guess?
Touching hearts.
Yeah. So they put their hearts together because that's the most important organ within the body, and that's their way of showing that they trust you. And so when you're crossing through their lands, there's 440 different, like dialect tribes within Australia when European settlers first turned up, and they didn't fucking speak a lick of the same language. Like, they would communicate and they would set their intentions, and I need to pass through your land, and I'm not doing anything, not doing anything untowards, because she's fucking eye for an eye back then. Like, you fucked up, like, they'd just go and wipe you out. Like, they didn't fuck around, but they were really loving people, and that was something that was developed. And they're the oldest living population in the world, and that's how they've done it. So I think it was something special about that as well. So
are you just doing it with close friends, or is it everyone?
That's kind of the close friend one. Yeah, So those lads are the ones that you kind of it's almost like a reserved, Like,
I like it.
This is how you show that. This is how I'm showing you that I care about you. Yeah. So if we come in out of habit, you go the other way. These boys, and back it up and go on again.
Yeah. I've heard that, and I've got that in my locker. I realised that as well. There's only certain people that you kind of you do pull that out with that know.
Yeah. So we all go by Blee, because Blee's brother in Balinese.
Yeah.
Hey Blee.
Man, we've got an epic life to get through. So I want to start growing up on the farm in Te Puna. You were never going to take it over, right? First in the family that didn't take it over. Was that?
Yes. So there was my parents are from the Waikato, so I was born in Cambridge. So I guess it's a satellite part of, slowly clawing it in. And then we moved to Taranaki, coastal Taranaki, a small place called Rahuru. And so that was my first farming memory. I'd wake up to see Mount Taranaki cloaked in clouds and snow, and it was beautiful, beautiful place to grow up. And my parents were actually in Top Town with Smiley Barrett, because they lived Pangarehu around the corner. So they, back in the day, they represented Opunaki, which is where my dad was a clubby, and that's sort of where I got into surf lifesaving in the beach. But yeah, it was beautiful. I loved growing up on the farm. It was awesome. Just the greatest upbringing. Older sister, younger sister. But it was a classic Kiwi upbringing, particularly when we moved to Te Puna, where we were up on the top of the Minden Ridge, and we had waterfalls to jump off, and we'd pack a backpack full of sandwiches and fucking disappear at 6 a.m. and not get back till night time, and jump off 60-foot waterfalls without checking the fucking bottom, and all the wild shit that we managed to survive. My kids are now at a point where the lawn's about the size where they can hop on 1 foot round in circles. Like, it's complete opposite. But yeah, I was the first of, I think it's like 5 or 6 generations not to go farming. So it's too much hard work. I'm fucking lazy.
Yeah. just back to that point of waking up and seeing Mount Taranaki. Like, have you always carried that almost spiritual element to your character, or have you reverse engineered those memories to where you are now?
I would like to. I don't know where it came about. It's probably a strange one. Probably a bit of both. Like, I think I tell myself something that often that then it becomes the truth, which is a blessing and a curse. But it is something that I've always, you talk about your tūranga waiwai, like when I'm standing on Moa, I fucking feel like I'm at home. Like, there's a sense of connection and pride there. And it's the same when we've got, we go to see our friends at Dome Hills, which is sort of by Danzy's Pass down south, and they've got this beautiful big station, and we've been going there every year that the kids have been live. It's the longest standing family tradition that we've got, and I feel at home there. Like, I feel connected to that, and I feel connected to Lake Hawea. Like, we've planted trees there, and that's one of those things of it was a catalyst from Ricky Gervais' show, which is strange in itself, but the lady that's sitting on the bench with them says, a society goes well when men plant trees, the shade of which they'll never sit beneath, or something to that effect. And I was like, that's really profound. Like, I take that to mean make a fucking difference for the generations that are yet to come. Like, start moving in a direction. Like, the Chinese do it incredibly well. Like, I'm dealing with a guy. I've got this ongoing dream of this big block at Parkity, which he has, and he bought it for his grandkids that don't exist yet. He's got no intention of selling it. He wants to know what we want to do with it. We want to create a space. It's a beautiful, beautiful setup. But I love that mentality. Like, I love that thought. And I love being connected to the land. Like, I love being around animals. I loved watching my dad be a farmer. Like, farmers get such a shit rap in New Zealand, and it fucking does my head in, because there is a portion of shit operators in every single industry, and the proportion of shit operators within the farming industry would be fucking so insignificant, but they are the ones that are highlighted continuously, and they just get a bum rap and they work fucking hard, and I think it's unfair, basically, long story short. So I don't have the work ethic to be a farmer, so I never stepped into the old boys' gumboots, basically.
I'm going to move us along the timeline just because we've got so much to talk about. I want to perch us in at age 21. You're a teacher at Tauranga Boys High.
Yeah.
And is it right that you taught Pete Burling, Sam Kane, and Kane Williamson across your couple of years?
Everything they know.
Yeah, everything they know. So basically, I'm just the captain creator. No, so Pete Burling was, I think he was, I don't know, you'd have to run it past him, but I'm pretty sure they were all, Sammy was there as I left, maybe. So he came across when he was 7th form, I think, from memory. Kane Williamson was in my class. I only taught for 2 years, but Kane Williamson was in my class for both years. Yeah. And great kid. Obviously a super talent. Like, he could have played any sport. Like, I think he was fucking basically playing basketball for the first team, first 15, first 11, men's senior cricket when he was fucking 10 years old. I don't know, whatever. He's a superstar and a great kid.
As the teacher, did you know, was the hype around him at that point? Like, oh shit, this guy's going to go on and be the guy?
Nah, because he's not a big bloke, so... and there was some real talent at the school. Like, I think Pete Burling was signed to like a Lingy when he was 14. So he was like on a paid contract and was like out around, he was like a mercenary on boats. And then Sammy Kane had some big raps when he came through, but he came through from Reperoa, and we, as part of the Super 8 schools, we're the only one I think that doesn't have a hostel. So very hard to build, or get lads across. But yeah, he was, they were there or thereabouts. I definitely cannot lay claim to fucking having anything to do with their careers.
We're both old boys from Hamilton Boys, so another Super 8 school. But I'm interested in the mentality of being a teacher at 21, because were you wanting to instill good habits in young men?
No. Or
was it just a job?
So, absolutely not. So once again, there'll be a massive undertone of laziness within this probably chat when I'm talking about myself. I don't have, once again, the work ethic. I trained as a primary school teacher. So actually, to wind it back a little bit further, Graham Young, the great Graham Young, was the head of the Principals Association, the principal at Tauranga Boys College for the longest of times. And I knew that I wasn't going to have the chops to make it into university with my mates, because I was doing second year sixth form. So I was doing all sixth form subjects in the 7th form uniform, because we had a different uniform for 7th formers. And I needed, at that stage, we're going back now, so most kids, well, this will make no sense to them, but 6th form certificate was a thing, and you had to get under 12 and you top 4 subjects, blah, 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 to get a university entrance. I was like, fuck, it's going to be tricky. I'm going to have to work some shit here. So this is probably the earliest indication to myself that I was quite a sneaky operator, and that there was real value in people, and people over things, I guess, was where my head was at. So I went cooking, art, photography, and phys ed were my 4 subjects I was going to have to crack it in. And there was some manipulation of some marking, because there was a large number of the lads at that stage in the phys ed department that were off farm, and they hadn't had home killed bacon in quite a while. So a couple of breakfasts went a long way. And so I managed to rattle my way up through there, and also it was going to be cutting it close, because I wanted to get into Christchurch College of Education to study phys ed teaching. And so I was like, how can I get the ear of the principal and if possible the board of trustees for a letter of recommendation? So I went for student rep to the board of trustees. So I was the only student that was paid by the school to be, in these meetings. So you get paid the same as any other board member, at the same like pro rata.
Brilliant. And
so I said to the Graham Young, can you write me a letter of recommendation to get me in? Because this will be the thing that seals the deal. He's like, I've never done this before. I've never written a letter on behalf, but I can see that you're passionate about it. You've obviously, you care about education, and because he is the fucking pinnacle of education. Like, he is the Messiah. And so anyway, he wrote me this letter. I went down there and fucked out in the first 3 months, and he's never written one again. So then I returned back to Waikato University, got a Bachelor of Teaching in Primary, and was heading off overseas. And it was the same sort of thing. I was the plan was to go overseas, and Jo Wilson, who's sadly passed away end of last year, she wrote the Hospitality and Life Skills curriculum, or home ec, if you will. And she was my teacher. She gave me and thousands of other wayward fuckers at that school a place of safety and sanctuary, and would back us to the hilt in every situation. And so she said, look, there's an opening here for you to come become a cooking teacher if you'd like. And I was like, rad. And so there's her and a guy called Joseph Reiter, who's an Austrian chef who's a weapon. And so I learnt my passion for cooking and skills through those two. And so I returned as a 21-year-old that knew fuck all about anything. Like, I was teaching kids that were in my form class when I was a student. Like, that's how tight the turnaround was. So I knew nothing and taught them nothing, which should be evident. But it was a great time, and it was at that point where I was about to leave and head off overseas to go and live in a one-bedroom flat with 30 other Kiwis in the UK and teach over there and get knifed, that I got offered the job at MTV. Yeah,
so to link up to that, you're longboarding, right? Sort of semi-pro stuff, travelling around.
Yeah, it's called the Pro Longboard Tour, but there's not much professionalism at all.
And you're also doing commentary. You sort of move upstairs, do some commentary for it. Someone recognised you got the gift of the gab, and from that you get recognised to audition for an MTV role. Someone pulls out, and you get the gig, right?
Yeah. So another couple that I owe a lot to, that I just think are just two of the greatest humans ever, is Amber Peebles and Brooke Howard Smith, and you've had them on, and you know how the caliber of the man. And so she was the female host. She was meant to be kind of the colour host, and the guy that was taking the lead role, who had been doing television before, had a wobble and couldn't commit to the job. And so she got pushed into the top spot, and so she's, with little to no television experience, now the main presenter, and they fucking roll me in, who's just hot off being paid in sausages and beers and hosting bikini comps. I get the job. And so they sort of molded me into, once again, when we talk about people that you've learnt so much from, the way that they handle themselves and the way that they communicate with people and build networks in and around them and advocate for themselves is second to none. And so I learnt so much from them in those early stages about building relationships. And Brooke said it, and I don't think he recalls it because you brought it up, was increase your surface area for success. And that's one of those things that stuck with me for the longest time, because I have a passion and an interest in people. I love people. I think everyone has something to, of interest, even if it's a yarn. So when someone goes, oh, mate, what do you do for work? I'm like, fuck off. Like, what a shit yarn. Like, your job doesn't define you. Like, yes, it is a part of your life and you spend a lot of time doing it, but it doesn't define you. Like, mate, you've got, 2 mates in a spare weekend. Where are you going? Or, that's sort of more of an interesting thing for me. But
So these years, right, 22 to 27, you're at MTV. So these are kind of like foundational years normally. You figure out, how to live by yourself, how to do jobs, how to pay bills. And we've spoken to a lot of people about these years, and they're like, Jay was a piece of shit. Like, he was traveling around living this surreal life, getting organised by a woman called Bronwyn Wilson, who was his life planner.
Once again, she was literally life support for me. Yeah, I didn't fucking breathe without her saying inhale, basically. Like, she was the same thing. She turned up to MTV very late in the piece when we'd already be kind of going, and she's this tiny, tiny little thing. She is the mastermind, the greatest TV producer, greatest producer by none to ever exist, in my opinion. We would go away. She'd dress me in my clothes. So they didn't trust me to dress myself. So they get me dressed, and then I'd have an AM and a PM outfit with a photo of me wearing it, and it was in a bag,
That's
in my
amazing.
fucking bag.
That's amazing.
It was unreal. And she would carry me, like, would never get angry, never really get disappointed, but could just run this shit machine. That made like an old tractor that takes a lot of fucking tinkering to get going good. She is that tinkerer.
But did you lean on that, or were you also trying to stamp your own style and place in the world, or was it bit of column A, bit of column B?
At that stage, I was still running a real reckless cutter. Like, this was the halcyon days of MTV. Like, this is, Russell Brand fucking walking around with a heroin dealer 5 meters behind him, like, that's, like, it was that time. Like, this was fucking proper pandemonium. Like, there's shit that I cannot say because I'll get thumped by Viacom, but fuck, we had a good time, and it was fast, and it was loose, and we had a lady by the name of Pip Jamison, who was the marketing. She came out from the UK, set up Australia, then came across to set up New Zealand, and she'd torch her annual budget in the first fucking quarter and go, I need more money, and they're like, no. And she's like, well, fuck it, we're going to run this thing into the ground then. And they're like, yeah, I'll just pull it. We had Lupe Fiasco performing on Snowpark with people jumping behind him and fireworks going off, and Dizzy Rascal on a plane that we chartered to go to Australia. Like, it was just, I was like, this is fucking loose. This is sick.
There's a couple of stories here that I just want you to tell. Some of these names. Is there a story about you connecting with Beyonce and Kanye West and Sway at an event and like this wild night that
at an after party?
transpired?
Yeah. So we the year where Kanye jumped up on stage and grabbed the microphone off Taylor Swift and was like, I'm gonna let you finish. This is, whatever it was. So there was Sway, who would met. They do these big media rounds. So you sit in this big, like a convention center with this little booth, and they funnel everyone around. This is for the American Music Awards, VMAs. And so they get all these people through, and Sway came through, and he was really, really cool. And he's like, so there's me, little Bromman, who's like fucking 3 foot nothing, little white chick, and Ryan Heron, who's our cameraman. And we get sent on these junkets because we're like a tiny, compact mercenary team which doesn't have a lot of employment rules and regulations around us, so we're quite fast and loose. One-stop shop. You don't need makeup artists, the rest of it, that every other team did. So we travelled as a 3. Every other VJ team would have like 10. And so we're just the cheaper option. We just get fucking rolled out across the globe. And so he came through and goes, hey, I'm having this after party. You can come to my after party. I'll put you guys on the door. And this is in New York, Radio City. And so like, sweet. So this, all the fucking hell breaks loose from the fucking, from Kanye being Kanye. Yeah. And we're sitting behind him watching this all roll out. And they've got a rule where they don't stop the talent coming out of their seats. Like, I think that might have changed off the back of this. Because anything can happen at MTV.
I don't know, Will Smith's team still
exactly, yeah.
Still seems to be able to get away with it.
And so that all went down, and we're like, should we go to this? Sway's put our names on the door for this after party. And so we turn up Lower East Side, and this fucking, the queue for this thing's like 2 blocks long, and it's African American only people. Like, fuck. And then we're like at the back of the line, and I was like, I wonder if all these names are on the door. And I don't reckon they are, but I reckon we might be. So we blitz this line, walk up the side of it, and walk up to the front of it. And the guy's like, no acknowledgement, like, just fuck off. And I was like, I think our name's on the list. And he's like, fuck off. And I was like, Sway put our name on the list, MTV New Zealand. And he's like, hang on a second. Oh, you're on the list? Yeah, sweet. Oh, shit. You're on the list. Sweet as. Come on in. And Sway's DJing in this club. And everyone sort of turns around and looks at us. And it's like, what the fuck are you guys doing here? And then he stops. He's like, oh, MTV New Zealand's in the house. And everyone's like, hey! And it's like, oh, you go and park up in this fucking booth. And it's Kanye, Amber, Beyonce, Jay-Z arguing about what had obviously gone down. And so it's kind of circular sort of set up, and cheers, guys. Obviously, just out of our depth, so just finished the drink and then just fucking peeled out of there. I was like, how fucked is this set up?
Yeah. And the other one we'd been tipped off on. Did you and Jared Leto get into it at one point over a stolen leather jacket?
So this was my first ever gig with MTV in Australia. So I was travelling through Natia on the way up, because I was still I'd live at the Mount and drive up, because it was only a day a week that I was filming. So it was awesome. Piggish behaviour. And so I was driving through, and I swung into this. They had this antique store by the Copper Kettle. Those of you that know it well know the old antique store. And they had an American marching band blazer, like the Navy SEAL one. And I was like, man, that's pretty cool. They don't look cool if I wear it. I didn't know that there was, like, it's fucking pretty poor taste to be wearing, like military uniform that you've never served in. But that wasn't where my head was at the time. So we flew over and we're on the red carpet, and Jared Leto in 30 Seconds to Mars was playing at the awards, and we're standing on the red carpet, and we're quite far down. And you've been along red carpets, and you see they're chaotic.
You're being very kind to
Yeah.
You're being very, very kind to You've seen a red carpet. Yeah. We've seen a red carpet, definitely.
They're chaotic. So they've got what they call a fixer, which runs in front of the talent, and they'll basically go, "Who the fuck are you, and what are you doing here?" And they'll basically go back and forward setting up the interviews. So they just skip the talent around the shit, you know. And because we're MTV, we obviously get, you know, first pick of the bunch. And so he's down the red carpet and he's chatting away to someone, and I'm like leaning out on the red carpet, like trying to capture his attention. And he turns around and just snaps his head, and I was like, he's fucking seen us. And he just fucking bins this interview that he's in and just beelines straight for me. And so I just think we're on for an interview, and I'm like, Jared, and he's like kind of sizing me up and down, like, fucking, this is weird. Anyway, he's a weird dude. And so I was like, Jared, 30 seconds to Mars, this is great, you know, fucking, this is my first ever gig, and blah, blah, blah. And he's just listens to me do this shit chat, and then goes, where'd you get that jacket? And I was like, fucking Natia. And he's like, no, where did you get the jacket? And I was like, I got it in New Zealand at this fucking antique store in Ngatea. And he goes, well, that's a fucking massive coincidence, because I have that same jacket and it's in a bag that was heading here, and the bag's been stolen. And you're the only motherfucker I know that's wearing that jacket. And I was like, swear to God, this isn't your jacket, but you can wear it if you want it to wear it for the performance. Fuck, I don't know. What do you want to do here? Can't get my head around it. So anyway, his people come up and they're like, is that the jacket? And he's like, well, fuck, I think it is. And I was like, I'll take it off and you can check it out for yourself. And he's like, no, it's not the same one. There's something different in the back of it, which sort of showed that it wasn't. And he's like, man, I'm so sorry, but you know, what are the fucking chances? And I'm like, yeah. And so anyway, his people call me backstage before the performance, and he's like, I was like, you can wear it. And he's like, I'll wear it during the performance and come backstage afterwards and have a drink, and I'll give it back to you. And so we ended up going backstage afterwards, and I just said to him, fuck, bro, obviously your one's been nicked and it means more to you than this, and you've performed in this jacket now at the awards show, and, you know, shit experience. So hopefully I can make it better by you having it. It's like, it cost me $110, like, it's all yours. And he's like, thanks, mate. And that's the beginning of a very interesting, very friction-riddled relationship.
You guys still in contact now?
No, we're not. Yeah, so there was, long story short, I was unaware that he had seen this young lady, and I think she was being quite spiteful. So she threw me under the bus and under her, and then told him about it, which I then found out about in Madrid.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, and another red carpet scenario where he stormed the fucking red carpet.
You again?
Yeah, I thought we were going to punch on.
Does it feel like a completely different lifetime ago?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Does it feel disconnected from?
It feels really long ago, and yeah, and once again, you go, how much of this have you conjured up in your mind by pulling together different bits and pieces? Like, yeah, if it wasn't on camera, I wouldn't believe the Jared Leto shit. You know, like, it was pretty wild. But it was a very hedonistic and heady time. Like, it was the halcyon days. It was flying high everywhere else in the world. And this is, I remember when they first brought in, they're like, we've got this TV show that we're going to put on. It's these 6 Italian Americans that live on this Jersey shore. And I was like, fuck, it sounds shit. And watching, I was like, this is rubbish. And then obviously, that was it. And then when you're buying one of those episodes in at $1,500 an episode, and then you're producing 21 minutes of television for like 30 grand, then all of a sudden the cost comparison is just, you can't beat that. So more people watch that than any of the local production, and they go, quickly, we're just going to fucking fold this up. And that's what ended up happening. They shut down the MTV New Zealand office, moved it back to Australia, and kind of run things out of there. But I was a contractor, so I was like, fuck, sweet as. Like Chris Keeley, who was the original GM, and later we had another couple of incredible GMs, just slid me a black envelope. Like we met at the Cordis. What is it, the Cordis? No, what's the big one where you guys did the Tanya Dalton Foundation?
The Langham.
Langham, yeah, the old Langham, whatever it was. Went up there, and we were in this, it was sick, this big, long boardroom, big oak table, and it was just me on one side, them and the lawyer from Viacom and another representative from the UK came out, and they're like, "Oh, look, we just want you to know that we're wrapping things up. We're finishing here." And I was like, fuck, sweet, it's been awesome. And they're like, we'd just like to show you our token of our appreciation, and slid across this black envelope. It was 6 months' wages.
Was it?
And I was on fucking good money back then. I was like, boys, milky bars were on me. Blitzed.
So MTV wraps up and you move into radio. What was? How did you get in the door at ZM, and how did you pair up with Flinny?
So there was, once again, we had kind of a semi-relationship with ZM because C4 at the time was with MediaWorks, and so that network of stations were all working very closely together, and so we needed sort of allies. So we had Sky, and basically the radio arm would be what was then, I don't know, TRN, yeah, the radio network. And so we would do stuff with ZM because obviously it was kind of a similar sort of fit. And Flinny had just been working with Stables, who was iconic. He would shut down beaches, saying they're great white sharks there. He turned up to court in a Superman outfit and fucking stood on that. Like he was sort of the last bastion of those sort of shock jocks. And I think that he'd probably just fucking blown up too many bridges at that stage. And Flinny was looking for a co-host. And at this stage, and this is probably an indication as to how my mind works, Polly and Grant had been in that job for the best part of 20 years, and they were riding really high. But I knew that there was a time that would come, and it would come sooner rather than later, that they'd be moving on. JJ and Dom, they're going nowhere because they're quite young and they're sort of incumbent, chasing these guys down. So it was a tactical move on my behalf to join ZM so that breakfast position would become available, because there were rumours that they're on close to $1 million a year each. This is where I want to go. Yeah. There's longevity in radio. They say radio is your wife, TV is your mistress. Like that's where the money is made, and that's where you want to kind of be. So I turned up and did some. Christian Boston, who was the PD at the time, said, come in and do a couple of ghost shifts and see how you go. And fuck, if you got hold of that audio, Jesus Christ, it turns your turns your toenails. Like it was so bad. Like, hey guys, fucking rightio, that was bloody fucking some song, and I don't know where the voice came from. And I tried time and time and time again, and Bosso goes, "You're fucking unemployable. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. You're shit, and this is just not for you. Great bloke, but just you can't make it happen." And I was like, "What if you put me with Flinny?" And so he's like, "Shit, this is like, you got to earn your stripes in radio, and going straight into a prime drive show with, like a broadcast like that just doesn't happen." But once again, convinced him that it would be a great idea, and that was the start of that relationship. Then when that role popped up, when they were about to be moved out, and they asked us if we'd like to go into breakfast, at that stage they'd swept Hodaki, and I grew up listening to The Rock and Hodaki because that's what was playing in the cow shed when I'd be hosing down. And so I was like, I want the breakfast job at Hodaki. And they're like, okay, cool. So you don't want to go with the breakfast job at ZM? I was like, no, we'll pass that up. So then they offered that up to Fletch and Vaughan at the time, and they came across, and to try and stabilise the station when there's such a big change happening, they're like, can you stay on a little bit longer? And so I was like, at this stage, fucking really good wedge. And so I was like, hey, sweet, there's my stay. I don't have to get up early. And in the time that I was doing that, there was, when I talk about the snakes and ladders in radio, there is many a snake. And in particular, the person that wrote up this contract for me was one of the fucking biggest snakes. Like, I don't talk badly about people, and I don't pay any mind to it, but the number of people that this individual just tried to decimate through shit decisions, and like, yeah, move on. But it's careers that we're talking about here. So anyway, I had this contract saying this, and they were like, we want you to stay and drive. And I was like, well, I got a piece of paper that says you're going to pay me this much money to do breakfast. So to work around it, they increased the breakfast hours from 5 a.m. till 10 a.m. and gave me a 1 hour show from 5 till 6. So I'm earning Hoskins money for an hour of radio that no one fucking listens to. And they tried to performance manage me out of it. But I was like, you ain't moving me. I'm here to soak up. And that was sort of the catalyst. I knew that I'd be fucked off the end of it. But with that, then we were able to do up a house and make some money out of a house, and then start up these different business interests. We started a company called Decoded, which was like the first social media company where we were monetising sports players for the first time in New Zealand through their social media, verifying their accounts, so on and so forth. We had this relationship with Meta and Twitter at the time, so that was kind of a cool space to be in.
Just pause there. So your show's 5 till 6 a.m.
Yeah.
And you're getting paid hosking money for it. So you're getting up at like 4:30, stumbling in. Like, do you have to do any prep for that hour?
Fuck no.
You're just doing it. And then the rest of the day, you've got to do whatever you want.
Do whatever I want.
Oh my God.
Yeah, for 2 years.
For 2 years?
Yeah, and that was when the kids were born. So
yeah.
I was able to spend way more time with my kids, which is ultimately what I wanted to do anyway. And it was kind of to prove a point. Because people do, particularly radio, for the ego. And so they're like, he'll never take this. He's buried. And I was like, I'm here for the cash. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
I will soak it up. And after 6 months of trying to performance manage me out, they just gave up.
Yeah.
We're like, yeah, fuck. And at that point, I'd just start not turning up. I'd probably missed 3 out of 5 shows just sleeping in.
Amazing.
Okay, so you move out of Radio Hodaki eventually. And I'm kind of interested in this part of your life because from the outside and certainly from our perspective, Jay Reeve, it looks like you've got it all, right? Like business success with pals and radio personality and emceeing and traveling and all that sort of stuff. But there's a chapter here where things aren't going well, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like
that was it.
Like we hear of the business success, but there's some pretty heavy business failures in here. Can you tell us a little bit about some of these tougher times?
Totally. So there's at that stage, like I knew that we were poked, but there was the thought in behind it. So my long-suffering agent Liz was like, if you leave town, then you've basically shut the door on it. And at this stage, I was so despondent within the radio market. I was like, it's just full of shit, and it's just people holding positions and not letting new growth come through. And like I think it's one thing, and it's awesome if you've got a long career in radio, like congratulations, but at the same time there's a shit ton of people that are pumping through broadcasting school that are told there's this massive job on the other side of it, and there's not a lot of movement in radio. Like when you get in there and you get a good job, you don't let it go because it's great money and the skill set is not that fucking transferable. So you're not going to go from getting paid like a brain surgeon to rolling into some other role, but you get accustomed to the cash, and so you get a little bit cushy. So when I knew that I was fucked at the end of it, they basically came to me and were like, "Here, we'll give you a job back doing some show, whatever it was. We'll pay you $60,000 a year." And I was like, "Nah, comparative to what I was on, it's not going to work for me. So I'm good, thanks, mate." And so at that stage, I was like, "Well, now I need to kind of I need to give myself a position of income where we can make something happen." So we've got a real good backlog of savings at the moment. We've sold our house, we're renting, so we're kind of sitting there to see what we're up to. And as within the agency stuff that we were doing, so the agency was then called Us & Co. So it was myself, Ali Williams, James Polhill, and we were doing these deals, and it was kind of like sort of eking out an existence. So that was one part of the business. There was a creative agency on the other side of it as well, but we'd sort of do different sort of campaigns, but it wasn't creating enough money. So all of these sports players that I'd see and have these relationships with, as a result of that, I'd become a conduit for businesses to go, "Hey, here is something, could you put this in front of the lads and see if they're keen on it? There's an opportunity here." So they'd flood across my desk. I'd say my desk would be text messages or DMs or whatever it was, and I would try and line the lads up with these different sort of offers. And one of them that came across was this like a beer line systems business, and it went incredibly well over in Australia, and by all accounts it should go well in New Zealand. So once again, this is one of those massive points of learning where you go back into it. So we went into this thing, it was like fucking $250,000 in on this thing. So it's like a significant amount of money that we didn't have, and it would have been a successful business had I worked the business. But General J operation was, fucking, this should be sweet. I heaps of mates and bars, they'll just fucking take it on. Built this, never having built a business, but thinking that I was a businessman, that this would be a piece of cake. And it wasn't. It was really, really tough. So we were living at the Mount. I was traveling up doing voiceovers because I still had a couple of big clients that I'd do every week, which was sort of keeping the wolf from the door. But was driving around trying to put these systems in. And it was just every single at every single turn there would be a roadblock with this mafia of fucking line cleaners that were like, fuck you, we're not turning up to fix your shit if you've got Jay's system in there. I was like, this is a tough one to learn. So yeah, everyone, I mean, there is a perception that, and it's a weird one because I'm not a fucking businessman. Like I would never proclaim to be anything other than what I am, which is just a fella that loves a good time. But yeah, that was a real eye-opener as to how quickly things can go from feasting to famine. And because I was done with radio, I wasn't open to any of those opportunities. And there's also a certain amount of stink on me that needed to sort of waft off before I'd be approached again. And it was those couple of years, although they were kind of enjoyable, they were fucking hellish for Anna because she was rolling solo. We were burning through cash that we'd saved, and it, took us back. We'd had this amazing jump up, and now we're kind of back to square one, if not below. But the key learning for me was you can't buy yourself a job, and that was what I tried to do. And I wasn't passionate about it, and so as a result of that, the business didn't really go anywhere. Was
it a bad business idea, or was it just that you weren't ready to roll the sleeves up and get amongst it?
I think it's a great system. But when I was building it in this imaginary bubble that I'd created, then I didn't account for the biggest hurdle being people's business that I was taking away from them. So basically, long story short, if you got draft lines, every single time you clean these things, they need to be cleaned, they pull water through, caustic wash them or whatever it is that they use to clean their lines out, and then they pull beer back through them. So every 2 weeks when you're doing this, say for example, Astrolab at the Mount was one of the venues that we had, and they'd burn through 2 kegs when they're pulling them back through to clear the lines out. So it's 2 kegs at whatever, $350, but they retail out about $2,000 when you sell them. So that's $4,000 of piss that they're losing. So by having the system on, they'd only have to do it every 8 weeks, and the lines were continually cleaned. So they got a better product, went through less beer, therefore made it more profitable. But the guys that were cleaning their lines and were attending to their taps in their keg room were like, well, now I'm only fucking cleaning a quarter of the time that I'm here, so you're fucking doing me out of work. And so then there's only 2 that do it in New Zealand. And so they just basically went on a tirade and were like, we're not going to, if your tap shit themselves at 4:30 on a Friday night, we're not fucking coming out till Monday. And so the publicans are like, well, unless you're going to fucking fix our shit and then do all the rest of it, then we're in a bit of a tricky situation here.
So what was the timeline of this failing and PALS getting started? Because I'm going to assume that learning from these failures kind of helped you in the next chapter. And yeah, from the outside, that's what people see, like the PALS, the fucking huge success that PALS has been. But was there overlap there, or was there a bit of space between those two?
There was even trials and tribulations in PALS. So we started, so Matt Crode, my business partner, still business partner now, was working for a company that would buy distressed stock wine and then either buy bulk juice, bulk wine, and bottle it under a different label for different brands, whether it be supermarkets or individuals, and we were in Bali steaming in, and he goes, fucking rosé's on a heater, and at this stage Anna's basically taking caps off and putting straws in bottles, so she's fucking draining it, and so this is almost like a way of subsidising her drinking, and so he's like, we should start a rosé brand. Okay, cool, what does that involve? And so we went through the process of setting it all up, and he was still working and we were still working, doing what we were doing, and then we launched this brand called Master of Ceremonies, because once you have a bottle of rosé, then you become the MC of any situation. And we had all these different iterations that were like, the bottle was like sort of dipped in black from the bottom, so then you could see the rosé at the top, so that when you finish it, you turn around, it looked like a microphone, and there's just we just thought it was really cool. We did a shit job of the first iterations of it, and then eventually landed on what was Master of Ceremonies. We had another couple of friends of ours that were like, oh look, this isn't really, they were on holiday with us, and we're like, okay. So it's not really a cup of tea here. So they bailed out, and then that's when Nick Marshall came in, who's the big dog of now PALS, but Master of Ceremonies. So he is a fucking fastidious worker, and really hard worker. Like, will work still 23 out of 24 hours a day. Like, he is super committed, and his skill set coupled with Matt's skill set and knowledge of the industry, and then our skill set of being able to connect it with people and with basically stores, and then push it and amplify that message, was kind of what got the Master of Ceremonies thing happening. And then when we were looking at how we could move more rosé, because it went from a rosé to a Central Otago Pinot Noir, and then we had a Pinot Gris in there as well, because that was sort of, bulk sort of setup. The margins on it and the forecasting so tough, like it just wasn't going to work. So we were trying to get into supermarkets with a rosé spritz, which is flavoured sparkling water with a bit of rosé in it, little 4-packs. And the guy who, you'll fucking hate this, but the guy that sells the comics on The Simpsons, he's kind of like that guy. He's the mix master, and would turn up to these high-powered business meetings and like Warriors stubbies and like slick back here and Jody and fucking, he's like, this is what you fucking want. And he's like, you guys should do an RTD. And so the cost of goods, COGS, was pretty high, so we went all in. What we thought we're like, we'll go 12 months, give this a red hot crack, and then we'll see where we go from there. And so that was the start of it. And we made pals, and we had some really great people help us out that were in the industry, which I have to keep nameless because they're still in the industry and working for competitors, which will probably get them into a bit of fucking hot water. But once again, had all these people that were willing to help us out, which is kind of the story of my life. And we did our first run, spoke about it, kind of alluded to the fact that this is what we're doing. Dunc was around there in the first tasting sessions. Like, he's seen it go from literally trying samples on the fucking kitchen bench to the manufacturing of it. And so the first run came out. Anna said that it was going to be at Bottle Zone, Mount Maunganui, Central Parade. It's owned by a friend of mine, Dwight Harvey, and his family. And I just said to, I just rang him, I was like, Dino, we're turning up, we've got some piss, and we told people you're going to sell it. And he goes, don't fucking come to my store. It's not in the system. It's not, I was like, we're coming, and we've told them, and turned up, and sure enough, there's fucking lines out the door, and we just burnt through it, and that was sort of the catalyst. And we have just got the greatest support. Like, I love that about New Zealand, is that you just back your own, and it's something that we've seen. Like, it's about 5 years old now, I think, 5-6 years old, and they just keep turning up for us. And it's sort of one of those things that it's really heartening. Like, when you build something and you believe in something, and then everybody gets around it, and people come up to us, and like the number of people that have got pals tattoos on them, and people overseas that are like, fuck, can we parallel import this into the UK? And this reminds me of home. And the rate in which it's growing in Australia now is just astronomical, because now all the Australians are getting on board. It's a really cool company.
Yeah, has it gone beyond your wildest dreams when you set it up?
Mate,
is it just continually going up, or have there been any sort of kinks in the road?
Yeah. So there was a whole bunch. Like, you should definitely get Matt and Nick on for a session here, because they are just two of the slickest operators that I know. They're awesome. But there was like a problem with our spirit base as well in the beginning, because we didn't want to go. There's a whole bunch. So basically, Fonterra is the biggest piss maker in New Zealand. So they have a byproduct of their process, and they make ethanol, and that's what made up the majority of RTDs in New Zealand. So even when there were ones that were fiercely advocating for animals, and vegans were shown, going, this is our drink of choice, it's like, you're drinking the byproduct of a fucking, of the dairy industry. So thanks, mate, but fucking know your shit before you start advocating on behalf. Like, this is an animal product you're drinking. So there was supply issues because of the rapid rate of growth, and the team at Free Flow, where we do the canning, were just swamped, and they put their own product on the back burner to make sure that they were fulfilling orders for us, and would work 24/7, and like, it put a lot of pressure on a lot of different points. And even when the Marsden refinery shut down, that's the biggest CO2 producer for New Zealand, and so then you're importing CO2, and it's gone up 400%, and so there's always these fluctuations. And so it went off with a hiss and a roar, which then caused a whole lot of trouble for industry supporting it. So we're variable cost structure. We don't own the distribution, we don't own the sales force, we don't own any of that. We've got our core team, which are great humans, which are brand builders. Basically, that's innovators and brand builders is what we've attracted to the business. And so that's not our area of expertise. We don't have our own canning line. We don't have a distribution trucking set up. We stick to our core business. And so there's definitely been ups and downs within it. There's been steady growth just through the support that we get. But I think we're in another one of those massive growth phases out of Australia now that we've got manufacturing out of Australia, and it's just fucking
Fucking hell exciting.
Yeah.
I spoke to Nick, and I'm going to bring in his voice in towards the end, but I asked him, like, what's your role these days? And he said, I guess I'd call him Chief Lubricator. He said that Jay gets us into rooms and opens up opportunities that you wouldn't otherwise. Is that, like, what does your week to week look like with involvement with pals?
It's the boys keep us abreast. It's such a fast moving business and it's such an... Like, we've got back to core, basically. So now the boys have finally... we opened the gate, the horse bolted, and the boys have finally fucking caught the thing. So just as they've got hold of it, they've effectively found out that this horse has just been out rooting and creating a whole lot more horses. So they're trying to round those up at the moment. But the week-to-week part of the business would be catching up with them on the strategic stuff. We've got sort of... your classic chat group with myself, Anna, and the boys in it, bouncing back and forward things. People come through me to get introduction or opportunity or asking for things through pals, and then vice versa. But I create more problems than solutions, put it that way, which is my role. But yeah, the boys, in order for things to be successful, we're the minor shareholders within the business, which is we make no secret of it. And because the boys work fucking really hard, like they work incredibly hard. So they keep us abreast of the decisions that are made, ask for our inputs on things, and we've gone back to that innovation piece now, which is really, really cool, which is exciting. So without alluding to too much, this is, we like to see ourselves as an ever-evolving business, and the boys and the team have worked fucking really hard to make some really exciting stuff happen.
Like, business, as we're finding out, especially startup, is exciting, but it's also taxing and challenging. And was there a need for you to start to bring back in like a steady income, a steady workflow? Is that why you went back to the marriage of radio?
It was unfinished business with radio for me, and there was a bunch of stuff that we wanted to do. And so when obviously you drain. So the startup for Pals was Nick working full time. Matt still had his full time job, and he was being groomed into like a CEO role for Australasia, and they had thrown all their eggs in his basket, and he just goes, "Fucking sorry, team. I'm going to give this thing a proper red hot go with Nick and really support him, because we're slinging it out of a garage in Grey Lynn, like." We had Jonty, who was like our first employee. He's now heading up Heineken. Like, we've just got the most amazing people. Like, we talk about, instead of firing the arrows, we are the target that attracts them. Every single person in the Pals office is the best at what they do. Like, it's the closest thing I could imagine to Silicon Valley. Like, every single person in there is at the top of their game, probably not getting paid what they could anywhere else, but they believe in the brand and they want to make it work. So if we were all to be on the tip there, it would really drain the company, particularly in that startup part. And I had the ability to go back and got the opportunity. And so I was really open and honest with Dunc when we first, because that's an arranged marriage. Like, we didn't know each other really before then. I was like, these are the things that I want to achieve if I'm coming back here. And we're not doing any of that. We're not doing any of the stuff that I would consider to be not progressive and not moving in a direction where media and new media should be. Like, with the stuff that we've done with the agency, and I love that I'm big in human development. So as a teacher, you would go, as an example, Pals, whatever it is. You have the answer that you want everybody to get to, then you reverse engineer the story, and then you lead them along so that they feel like they've got there on their own accord. And so that is what radio is. That is what teaching is. That's what marketing is to me. That's what branding is. Like, how did we get here? You've got collective buy-in. You've built a community. Now you service that community with a product, and therefore you capitalize out of that situation. And it's a symbiotic relationship. And so with radio, we wanted to do things differently. And back-to-back number ones, like 15% growth, in a declining market. Financially, the show's never been in a better position, and we're up for best show, which I know by the time we find out tomorrow if we win it, station of the year, show of the year, like, we're in a really good position, and that's orchestrated over the last 5 years. Dunk's one of the greatest broadcasting minds, in my opinion, to ever exist. Like, I've got the idea, he can articulate it into the platform that we're on, and so by being able to sort of scratch that itch that I'd had, and I definitely had. I'm there now. There's still more stuff that we want to achieve, but this is where I wanted to get to when I came back. And it's nice to set those goals, have a plan, And the plan was me fucking spraying shit at the wall and Dunc formulating it into what would work. It's that perfect relationship. He is he's the spreadsheet guy. I'm the one that's out there shaking babies and kissing hands, you know, like that's our role within the show.
I spoke to Dunc and I asked him what the differences were between you, and he said exactly that. You complement each other so well. He hates networking, you love networking.
Yeah,
you've got the ideas, he'll do the execution. And it reminded me of Seamus and I's relationship, because you just by accident on our part, and you just fill the gaps of what the other person can't do.
He's a great safety net. So as an example, when we do MC stuff together, he gets petrified. He hates it, and so he would have a run sheet. And so he'd have this run sheet ready to go, and he's like, okay, so you can start with this, and we start with this. And I'm like, fucking rightio, thump 2 beers, and then just walk out on stage and biff it and go, fucking hell. And he's just like, oh my God, where are we going? So he's just sort of, you know, when you watch someone trying to jump in and double Dutch skipping, like he just sits there going, go.
He told us a story. He was like, this is a classic example of Jay. He's like, we were all having a couple of beers and he had this call, and it was some high-paid MC gig he was supposed to be doing. He's like, shit, I forgot about it. And without any prep, you've driven over and you've absolutely nailed it on with no notice.
Yeah.
You know, like that's a skill set.
So we're at the pub and I got a call. I won't say what event it is because this will string it all back together. There's like 4,500 people at this thing, and I completely forgot. I'd completely forgotten about it, and so
he said it was a big gig. He didn't tell us it was like the fucking biggest gig in New Zealand.
It was a pretty big setup, and so I was like, I got a call, and they were like, "Hey, we're just, going through some formalities. Do you want to, what time are you here for a sound check?" And like, this is over the other side of town, and so I'm at the pub having a low alcohol beer, just the one, and I'm on my motorcycle, and so I'm like, hey, yeah, I'm just sliding into my suit and I'll be there shortly. I'm like, fuck, like rang Anna, get my shit out. I'm like diving through this thing, like literally Superman change in this, and then rolled in and just
smashed it.
Nailed it.
They're like, mate, we'll get you back next year. And I was like, yeah, it sounds like a great idea.
So killing it with the radio show, also killing it with the podcast. Like you've done 500 plus episodes of Not For Radio. You've developed this Sniper's Nightmare Facebook community, which is just unreal. 120,000 plus.
It's close to 200,000.
Close to 200,000. Can you talk to us about the community and the podcast and how it's different and why that's important to you?
So I love this. I love what you guys are doing. I love the decentralization of media and the ability for people to connect, and more so than that, the longer form stuff. So the background basically in radio, like we get 3 minutes to talk. That's kind of the gist of a break. So by the time you say the song, the time, the station ID, and then you climb into it, now we're running with sort of 2 minutes. And so it gets quite condensed, and it's not that, it's enjoyable, but it's not that enjoyable when you're wanting to have a chat with someone. Say, for example, you guys come in. If you were to summarize what it is you do in 2 minutes, you'd be like, yeah, so we catch up with, hey, thanks, guys, great stuff. I can follow the link 3520, and bang it out. And so it was always sort of bubbling around in the background that we wanted to build something that was independent to the radio show, that was able to be in a long form setup. I had another podcast called Gimme 5, which is 5 tunes that you bring in, you sit down and we talk about those tunes, and it's super fun. And I'd love to get back to doing it. I just don't have the capacity, or maybe get someone like Sin Howard or BQ to pick it up, because they're passionate about music, and it's fucking so much fun. And so it's the catalyst for it was Tuesday afternoon, 4:40, and Dunc goes, I've got this thing, because we don't share. Once again, I'm lazy, so I don't read things in advance, because I like to be surprised as well. Yeah. I'm like, fuck, this is cool. When something's funny and you read it for the first time, you should be able to, have that reaction. And so Dunc goes, here's a list of nicknames we got off Lad Bible, and goes through them. And where one guy's one hand was bigger than the other, so he was called the Clock. And then an old mate had a cyst in his testicle, so they called him Uncle Ben because he had a boil in his bag. And I worked with a guy called, I thought his name was Keth, but it's actually Keith, but he was missing an eye. And then it wrapped up with the penultimate one. So I was like, I'm here for this. Is fucking great stuff. And then he's like, there's a fella at our work, and he's got one leg longer than the other. So when he walks, his head bobbles from side to side. So his nickname is the Sniper Sniper. And I fucking lost it. I love that stuff. And so I was like, that's hilarious. And in radio, for the most part, nobody ever credits where they get this, this stuff from. Like, they pretend that they make it up because they want to be seen as like the best. And we are unashamed. And if we see something, hear something, whatever, we will credit those people. And so it went up as a clip, and we tagged in. We got this from Lad Bible, and Lad Bible, because they get all their shit ripped off them, was like, cheers lads. And then they posted it up in the Lad Bible UK to like whatever 14.5 million people, and it just went bananas. So it had like 52 million spins or something. And so we're like, let's build off this. And so that was where Not For Radio sort of came about, which is the things that you cannot say on radio because you'd lose your job. This is the fucking Wild West we're in right now. Like, there is no censorship, there is no real rules. You could say whatever you want, and because people have to actively consume it, you can basically break all the rules of radio. So Not For Radio as a podcast is exactly what it says it is on the fucking can. It is Not For Radio. And this group of people finally connected, and I'm talking from across the globe. Like, we've been stopped outside the Empire State Building for photos of fucking people that listen to the podcast. Wild. We had a sex worker who messaged us saying that she had a John come in, and they were just chatting, and they would somehow came across shared the podcast and this conversation, and so they just sat there in the nude listening to the podcast. Like, we had a mate of mine call me, and he's like, I just hopped into a safari jeep in Zimbabwe. I'm here on a guided hunt, and the guy that's the guide is listening to the podcast. Like, it's just wild where it's kind of gone to and grown, and it's what we wanted. Like, this is an international product which is made domestically, and so when you wrap some financials around that, or some decent financials around it, you're introducing funds from offshore, because this table here is the radio market in New Zealand. And whether it's got $100 million, $200 million in it, whatever it is, when you start getting that pizza cutter out and you chop it up into all of the different stations, that number doesn't change. Whereas an international market, we're selling, as you do, naming rights sponsors in 10 different markets, and they fluctuate depending on audience. There is real opportunity for growth there. And as you guys are like, this is your full-time fucking job. Like, you've got other stuff going on, but this keeps the wolf from the door, roof over heads, food and pantries. It's a viable option, and it's viable to take away from radio and enables other people to come through and then experience what it is that we've had to experience. So
there's real power in building community. 200,000 people in a group. Yeah. Do you have thoughts about what to do with that?
No, because the best part because everyone's got this ownership piece. Like, that is a symbiotic relationship between, it's its own, like an ant colony that operates on its own rules. Like, it's self-regulated. There's like a no dickhead policy. It's 99.9% fellas in there, and there's always a certain level of fuckwittery that goes on when that many lads are together. And it can be driven down a track. And so Showboss Teagues is really good at sort of moderating it. And internally, they're really good at moderating it. But I sit back and watch it go, because I don't want to be in there like going, fucking the mayor of Not For Radio Town is here, Like, that's not my cup of tea. We've created a podcast which people resonate with, and have therefore now found other people that have shared values with them and are on the other side of the planet. And the communication in between, it's like someone popped up that, like, there's a lad that, because we talk about it all the time, like, there's weird shit that we talk about. The fucking stories that come through that thing are outrageous, like outrageously funny, incredibly well written too. But we always talk about, we don't call it mental health, we call it mental fitness, because everyone's got different levels of fitness. And so what are you doing? So when someone's like, oh man, I'm having a fuck shit time, it's like, well, I would suggest staying off your phone until you've seen some sunshine. And I would suggest maybe knocking the piss on the head, and having an open and honest conversation with someone that's in your life that you respect and care about, and get out there, do a bit of exercise, whatever it is. That's what you should be doing, instead of like going, give me a pill for the solution. And so when somebody goes, hey, lads, I've been really trying to get on top of things here. I've knocked the boozing on the head. I'm eating good. And I'm doing some exercise, but just kind of still in a bit of a funk. And I'm just looking for some support and some advice. And fuck me, people dive in, mate. Hey, I've got a place here. Come and stay. I'm doing a bit of a reset myself at the moment. Like strangers that have never met each other, and that's a beautiful thing. Like, the internet is the best and the worst place in the world. It has got the greatest opportunities for people, and it has a million pitfalls. It's got inspiration and stuff for you to measure yourself against and go, fuck, my life is shit. And so that's, with enough shit places on the internet, we're trying to create a good one.
Yeah.
Where do you stand on online versus internet kind of interactions with people? Because there are odd interactions that you're having with people online. Do you have a preference towards like the AA weekends and catching up and actually connecting with your mates that way?
Yeah, I think that I would spend more time, just because of the way that my days are structured, probably more time conversing with fucking people I've never met online than I do for the most part, or up until recently actually, that's changed, with my actual mates. Like, the core base of my group of friends are still based in Mount Maunganui. My best mate, Gergs, you may have spoken to him, he's based in Noosa. Ollie's in Sydney. DT's still down the Mount, Dodsy's over in the Goldie, so it's kind of everyone's sort of around the place a little bit. But I've got this awesome group of lads, another spectacular group of human beings that are older blokes that I hang out with pretty much every single morning.
Yeah, that's you referenced them before, right?
Yeah.
Which is us circling back to Sir John Kerwin and those sorts of guys, is that right? And are you gleaning life advice and lessons from those that are above you? Because you pass it to those that are below, right?
Well, I'll fucking point at some potholes for people, that's for sure. Untold. Absolutely. I've never been more inspired. They're a great sounding board. All of them are exceptional in their own right. Trevor McEwen is one of them, who you both know.
Yeah, my old boss, Trev.
Yeah. He has a wealth of knowledge. He has been around the traps and seen some really cool shit. So in terms of the role that I'm playing within broadcasting and then in that sphere, he's great because he knows everybody. He is like a little mafia boss. Call him the grey-haired grommet. He's 66 and snakes all the ways off us when we go surfing. Carlos is just exited out of a company, got bored within a weekend, basically started it back up and has basically all of the Northern Hemisphere. Addo, who invented phone banking and has done incredibly well. Sir John Kerwin, obviously. Fucking what more do you need to say? And this all started because JK came in and I said to him, have you fucking tried an ice bath? And he was like, I couldn't think of anything worse. He'd done them with training and when he was coaching, but my brother-in-law has a company that makes these baths and these chili units and saunas and so forth. And so I said to him, send one to me and I'll go and set up at JK's. And he goes, well, I'm not getting in unless you're getting in. And so then that started. So it was me and him, and he's like, we need to do this consistently. So that started, and then Trev came on board, and then Addo's his business partner and what he does with Groove and sort of some AI pieces in and around Mighty. And then Staffy lived down the road from Addo, so then he's flipped into it as well. And Carlos is a buddy of mine, so I've introduced them, and it's this great group of older men. And now Andrew Steele, who's a really good friend of mine, artist, he was really having a tough time, and he lives over the other side of town, and the boys folded him in. And he's like, it's just so nice to be around older blokes that have been around the sun a few more laps and they've got some experience and some knowledge and they can actually stand on things. Because if I'm chatting to a bunch of 40-year-old blokes, like we're at the same, we're still sprinting in the dark. Like, I don't know. I don't know what's around the corner. I don't know what it's like for my kids to become teenagers yet. And I don't know, the pitfalls of parenting or business or any of those things because I've never been across that line. And they're not saying that they know everything, but fuck me, it's great to have a support network like that. And that's why my friend group is varied from 60-plus-year-old guys through to lads. Like, I've never been more impressed with a guy called Lockie Thurlow, who's he came to work. He said, I want to come and work for you so I can learn from you. At 21, he was a Wax Mustangs manager and fucking, he's a weapon. Like, I learn more from you than you learn from me.
Yeah. How many days a week are you getting together with that group?
Most days, yeah.
Most days.
Yeah, so the boys will catch up at the gypsies will catch up every morning at either Addo's Well, Carlos's, JK's over in Italy at the moment, so
Yeah, that's so cool.
yeah, it's awesome, man.
Yeah,
It's awesome. And we had a
that.
big weekend away down at JK's place in Waihi Beach. It's like we went for a full wine tour all through Italy with all of the wines that he's got, and big brisket, and he's got this open fire cooking setup, and a real Italian style weekend.
Yeah.
Because it's counterintuitive to traditionally men's friends groups get smaller and smaller as you get older, right?
Yeah.
But so it's active for you to increase your surface area in terms of, like, to use Brooke Howard Smith's terminology.
So it's a fact that your friend group's at its biggest when you're sort of 18 as a lad, and it progressively gets smaller and smaller and smaller over time. And generally, what ends up happening is that you just become mates with your wife's mate's husband, and that's fucking And they might be,
And you've got nothing in common with them.
and no history,
Yeah.
and no history, and so and for the most part, you probably don't catch up with them at the same rate as the girls do, because girls are great. Their friend group grows because fucking mums and bubs groups and coffee this and fucking Pilates that and all the rest of it, and that's sort of how those lives generally end up being led. They're generally the more active person in the sports group, so they're chatting with the other mums because they're also really active, and they increase their friendship group, and they're generally, for the most part, a bit more open to it too, whereas lads are like, I've got enough mates, fuck off, thanks.
Yeah.
And so the boys have said it, like, I never thought that I'd meet one of my best mates in my 60s, and that he was 20 odd years younger than me, you know, like, yeah, it's really, really cool. And I like the fact that they're open to that, because I don't know, it's 60. I can't imagine a 40-year-old wanting to hang out.
But that sounds like a group of like-minded, open people
Yeah.
wanting to grow and learn and continue to get better.
And they're very, very, very successful and very, very, very cool.
Longbow to draw here, but in that group of 60-year-old men that you're now knocking about with, are you passing on knowledge that you shared, like on the Morgan Penn trainee sexologist episode? Were you getting into those areas? And jokes aside, but kind of referencing your own relationship with Anna, which is a really positive one, into their kind of relationships at 60 plus?
I think so.
There's a lot of layers to that. That line of questioning.
Yeah, there is. Well, it's pretty funny because we're at the sports cafe filming on Monday night, whatever night it was, and we kind of went back and had a couple of chews and we're talking about it. And some of the lads, one lad in particular, is just a fucking rampant animal, and he has a great relationship. So when those sort of things pop up, like the rest of the lads have, you know, we don't dive right into it, but there is often reference of, you know, like how do you increase your, you know, surface area for success, so that you can, and it is those things like when you feel better about yourself. And JK talks about this. He goes, in the Italian language, there's 16 different ways to express how you're feeling. In the English language, there's happy, sad, angry, fucking whatever. And so they're much better because of the language that they have to communicate with and how they operate. And he goes, and that's why they're such passionate people, is because they can properly articulate how they feel. And that's why it sounds so much nicer when they talk to each other, and there's so much passion in it when they chat. Whereas lads, we don't have the skill set or the language to probably articulate that. So the number of people that are our age, and I say our age, sort of within that sort of 25 to 50 bracket, that go, oh, you fucking hell, you know, how do you stop for fucking your sex life? Put a ring on its finger, and, you know, like those sort of shit chauvinistic comments. Like, are you a person that you would want to fuck? Like, are you a fuckable human? Like, are you putting in the yards to, you know, because as lads, we're always ready to go, for the most part. Like, if Anna takes her shoes off and looks at me, I'm like, fuck, are we on here? Like, I'm in the blocks at all times, ready for the gun to go off. But it's the little things of, and that's just like, if you want to put your meat on their plate, make sure there's some fucking room on it, you know, like take stuff off it for them. It's the do the dishes and tidy the fucking house up, and are you taking care of the kids? Because that's where the female mind operates. It's like a million different things going on, and of course you're not going to feature in it. If you turn up reeking of piss and durries after being out at the pub with the boys at 11:30 and try and throw a leg over and get told to go fuck yourself, then that's a fair comment. Like, we start the day without the intention of it paying off, but just being a decent, loving human. Like, a message, saying something specific that that you appreciate or love about them. Like, put the kindling down so that the fire can be built throughout the day, so that you don't come home and throw a big lump of fucking wet gum on it and hopefully get something across the line.
We joke about your wisdom sort of being imparted down. When you're saying this, I'm remembering hearing it on the Trainee Sexologist podcast. And that's kind of when you first came into I was like, fuck, who's this guy who's speaking so openly about his sex life? And it was like keeping those embers burning throughout the day. I remember sharing it with Shay, like, this is fucking, I hadn't heard men talking about sex so openly as when you did. You must have got such a response from that.
Yeah, and predominantly from females that were saying thanks for, like, because it's just not part of our toolbox. And I learnt that from Morgan, and I learnt that from my wife. Like, I'm lucky that I have these great open relationships, and it's not, I don't know, I'm just not a greasy human. Like, I'm genuinely interested. Like, I love sex. Like, I don't think anybody out there is going, oh, I'm fucking getting a bit too much of this, or maybe I really wind this up. And so if you were great at anything, or you loved something, why would you not increase your opportunity to do it more? And then on top of that, for it to fucking be the best. And like, what, then there's another layer to this. And then now we've got this connection and trust, and now we're together on this, we can start exploring. And then as soon as it's like holding up the lantern, like, that's the education piece. Like, the more you read, the more you ingest, the brighter the lantern grows, which then shows you how little you actually know, because you can see the vastness of knowledge that is out there. And I think it's the same with relationships, both like personal, interpersonal relationships, but also your physical relationship with your partner. And if you want some flowers to grow in that garden, like, you need to fucking tend to it. Like, so many people that I've seen blow out and start relationships with other people because they build a fake relationship in a vacuum where it's devoid of the stresses at home and the bills that need to be paid and the kids need to take in training there. So they end up fucking teeing off with some young bird that they've met at work, and this is all great stuff. But then you'll quickly figure out that the same level of monotony that you were trying to escape and build this other relationship with will exist there if you stay with that person long enough. So deal with it together, build something worth standing on together, and it's fucking awesome when you find it. Like, people, like our relationship, Anna and my relationship, I would say, you have to ask her, is 1,000-fold better than when we got married. And that is when I said, I'm going to spend the rest of my life with you. And it gets better and better and better and better because we work at it. And fuck, she puts up with some shit. Like,
and there's another important chapter I'm keen to touch on in there, in the sort of like the foundational part of your relationship is some really tricky years, right? With the twins and some sort of postpartum depression and things like that.
Well, even before you got to the twins, right?
Yeah.
You had your own struggles.
Can you talk us through that journey?
Yeah, so Anna, for those that don't know, so basically to bring it back, my wife has alopecia. So she has, her immune system fights her body and stops it from growing hair. And so when we were married and we were wanting to try for children, she went in to see if there was any possibility of alopecia being able to be expressed through our kids. Because she had her hair till she was 8. Like, it was kind of, unknown. And so she went in, and while we were in there, they were like, why don't you just go and fucking rip it off its hinges in the cupboard over there and just give us a sperm sample. And so I was like, fair enough. And I'd had a scare when I was younger with a lass that I was seeing. And so I was like, well, it's not a scare. We had a situation which would have been drastically different life if that was to not go the way that it went anyway. And so I went in, and I remember I was sitting in, I was at ZM at the time, and I was sitting there in a producer's booth, and I got a call, and they're like, hey, you just got your sperm sample back or whatever it was. And I was like, oh yeah, what's it looking like, like a whole bunch of just absolute terrors just racing around like a circle of death in there, like a mosh pit. And they're like, well, it's probably more like the beehive, like there's a whole bunch of people doing fuck all, and your swimmers are shit. Like, there's lots of them. They don't have 2 heads and 3 tails and that, but there's no motility. And so I was like, that's a bit shit, I didn't expect that. And so then you have the conversation. I was like, it's not, because we were trying to have kids and it was just wasn't happening. And it became quite mechanical. And I was like, this is not fun, you know, like get a call. I'm ovulating. You've got 10 minutes to get home. And I joke about it. It wasn't that level, but looking over her shoulder and she's scrolling through Instagram while I'm chipping away, putting in my best work. Which she says I made up. I'm pretty sure. It's
that JST that she was telling me about.
Yeah. And so then we go through the whole process and then I see because my job is to provide and to procreate. And it's, at that stage, I was pretty much doing both poorly. And so there's this realization like, fucking, this is me. And then watching her go through jabbing herself, because it's not like, there's different levels of IVF. So you do like a turkey-based scenario where you just give them a sample and they send it on up in there. Then they get a petri dish, put a bunch of eggs in it, put sperm in there, and then the best out of that bunch. Like, we are sitting here because we fucking won the race of life. We bet millions of others to create ourselves. And so mine weren't even doing that. They're just like, real fucking, nah, mate, I'm not moving.
I'm good here.
So then they had to pick one out of a shit bunch, and it's called ICSI, where they basically poke it into the egg and drop the sperm into the egg, and that's sort of how we create it. So we had these, I think it was like 12 embryos. First one we put back didn't take. Second one we put back. One sperm into one egg is what goes back in, because everyone's like, oh, you went through IVF, that's how you got twins. Identical twins are a birth defect. That's when they unzip and replicate their DNA and create two things. So I've always wanted twins. I always wanted boy twins. And so they're like, there's fucking next to no chance of that happening. Cheers, mate. And so we go back in and we get the test, and we've got a photo of them when they were an embryo. And it was just, there's two of them now, but at that stage, it's just one collection of cells. And so they put them back in, and then we go, okay, cool. Went in to see Mary Bird, who delivered my wife, when she was a kid, and is still, you know, in that realm. And so she goes, oh, we need to have the conversation about there being two babies. And I was like, fucking yes, get it, like, fuck you little beauty. And Anna like held the wall and it started crying, and I was like, this is great stuff. And we'd just been watching One Born Every Minute the night before, and it was a Siamese twin episode. And so what happens is, say for example, there's a 48-hour window where identical twins split in half, and if they start late, basically the lock-off is at this time. So if they're splitting in half and they don't quite separate, that's where they stay joined, and that's how you get conjoined twins. And I was like, man, that's so heavy, because there's like a couple of chicks who were joined at the head, and one of them had a boyfriend and had to kind of sit there, and they're like, are you romantically involved? Yeah, I fucking hear everything. And like, that's pretty tough. So I was concerned about that, and so I said, I need to see some fucking daylight between these two things, so it's okay. And I was like, how did that happen? She's like, they're going to be identical twins. And I was like, yes. And then, because my wife went to Dio, I was like, fuck, that's going to be so expensive if they're girls. Those are financially going to be crippling. And so then turned out, yeah, well, they're boys and we're back on. Yeah. So it was, it was a pretty crazy journey. But then that was the beginning. So when Anna gave birth to the boys, I think she was 12 kilos lighter full term than she was when she felt pregnant. So she literally looked like this fucking, I don't know, I've never thought about this, but this is almost what she looked like, but a sexy version of those fucking aliens that drink their coffee on Men in Black. Like, she was fucking, like you could literally see the outline of the boys in her stomach. She's skinny as fuck, like a skeleton, and not a hair on her. Yeah. And so it was pretty crazy. And so her blood volume doubled when you have twins, and so there was all the complications with that. And then when they turned up, there was this massive post. Like, everyone's like, oh, you see, as soon as you see their eyes, this is amazing. She's like, I don't find that at all. And they look like skinned rabbits, and we were in NICU for a week, and so there's a disconnect there, and the stay was a little bit rough, and she was pretty beaten up by the whole thing. And the assumption was, because she spewed like 20 times a day the whole pregnancy, that when she had the kids that this would stop, but it didn't. And so she spewed for like a month afterwards every single day. And so I think she was like, this is going to be my new norm, and I'm just fucking not here for it. Like, this is not what I expected this to be. There's expectations in reality, and they were just not being met. And it's what happens in life when you think this is what it's going to be, and it's not even close to that. Then you drop below base level, and that's where she was really. She had great support from her mum, and we had like a night nurse that would come so we could sleep because the boys screamed, they had colic and reflux, and like I'd sit there. I vividly remember sitting there swaddling the two kids and trying to put them to sleep as they screamed. Like I'm talking like fucking banshees, and I had sweat dripping out of my armpits. My whole body was like freaking out. Like, holy fuck! Like, how are we going to get through this? And so it was. Yeah, they'd wake up. I'd wake her up. They'd feed. She'd spew. They'd spew. Fucking swaddle them back up, change them, put them back down. They'd scream a little bit more till they got exhausted from screaming, and then go again. It was like we're in this 2-hour loop. So 45 minutes would be taken up by feeding, then get them back down, and then 45 minutes later she'd be up again. I'd like pull her up in bed, feed her a cracker, give her some water. Like it was fucking heavy.
How did you hold the relationship together? Like,
we were just in the trenches, and we were side by side. Like I think if there was a child and that was then there'd be a bit more escapism, but there's no getting it. Like that's why they call them twins, because if they called it having two fucking babies at the same fucking time, it's a real daunting thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, obviously I don't remember it, but there would have been moments of friction where we were kind of like, I would have come home and been out, and she was like, what the fuck are you doing? And I'm trying to live here. You're in the weeds when you're there. And then we popped out the other side, and we've got the greatest kids, and I've got two beautiful 11-year-old sons that are just the smartest and kindest and caring, and they got into the school they're in now on the recommendation of Sir John Kerwin and Peter Ehrlich. Like they were the letters of recommendation. And so I was like, if you fuck out, that's not on me. Like you're calling them.
Did you tell them the Tauranga boys letter of recommendations?
We don't have a very good tradition when it comes to recommendation letters. You need to right some wrongs. Yeah. So it was crazy, and I don't think it's one of those things that, for whatever reason, when we spoke about, I think we did a podcast talking about it, or I wrote something. Maybe because Anna was at this stage. She started documenting it, and that was sort of the starting of her social media, sort of like she's always been in social media, but she went from being a model in fashion and to now she's a mum of twins and the battles in behind it. And she was open and honest, and then was like, write it from your perspective. And so I wrote it, and a bunch of lads were like, man, fuck, this is insane. And more recently, what's the comedian's name? Shaved hair with a moustache. He's just done a Netflix special about it. And he literally chronicled that same journey, basically the weirdness of going into a fertility clinic and like sitting on a leather chair that that's a million people have wanked on, and there's a manila folder with an FHM in it, and I'm like, fuck, I'm resorting to the phone. Is this too noisy? You can hear people like going outside, like shuffling the paper, and like, it's like, fuck, that thing is paper thin, and you get up 10 times to check the door's actually locked because you don't want someone bowling in where you're just like fucking mid-rip, and it's just awkward. And then you come out, because it's like, this is probably a bit too much information, but like the anatomy of a man's body is that an erect penis faces towards you, and you have to capture it in a cup. So how the fuck is this going to work when I need to hold on to this? So then I'm running this upside down slinky model where I'm like fucking ass is like jammed into the back and the legs are up the wall, and I'm like fucking whipping back. Like it was just fucked. Yeah. And then you're just there like post-nut clarity, upside down with a cup full of your own cum, and then semi-nude in a fucking closet waiting room. And you're like, how the fuck did I get here? Yeah. And then you walk out, and obviously you walk out the door, and everyone in the waiting room knows you just been wanking. And then you walk up, and the lady's like, "Is this the full sum?" I was like, well, I'm not fucking saving some for later. And then they pop it under their arm to keep it warm while they're filling out the forms. You're like, this is just fucking so weird. Yeah.
But that's what New Plymouth Boys High teaches you, as well as those skills to be able to.
It is. Oh mate, the tent is what we would call it. So you basically mate, I'm going to probably go into that. Just young fellas listen to this.
They'll all learn. Yeah, keep the blanket up, don't you?
Exactly. You got to prop the knee up like a spinnaker, so you've got a little bit of drop sheet so that you don't hear it going. Fup, fup, fup.
Mate, this has been such an epic. I'm going to bring us home on the home straight. But first of all, as much... I love learning from guests the same way that you do when you talk to people. So you've got 11-year-old boys.
Yes.
I've got 8-year-old. So sort of making that step into manhood or teenage years.
Yeah.
How are you approaching it? How are you trying to shape their minds? Are you doing anything interesting or different?
I'm excited. Like I'm really excited for what the future brings from them. It's tough to discourage them from screens and games and telephones, because that is our life is basically a communication with an audience through those things, those mediums. So they look at Anna on her phone and she's working, but if she was to have a laptop up there, it would look more like your traditional work setup. Or she doesn't leave to go and work in an office and I go to a studio, and it's, our jobs are very varied. Like we've got a bunch of stuff that we do which brings money in. It's not like Dad drives out at 9 o'clock in the morning to be at a workplace, so he'll be back at 5 and he gets the weekends off. Like our shit's all over the place. So for them, and both of them are heavily dyslexic. And so I see it as a superpower. And a really good friend of mine is, he's from Cambridge. He's from the region. He's an incredibly successful businessman, and at 40 is incredibly successful with his family, and they've built this amazing business. Anyway, he's also dyslexic, and he told them everybody has your stock standard car upstairs in their head, and that's great. It'll get you from A to B, but there is a limit on what can be achieved in a stock standard vehicle. And he has a garage full of supercars, and he goes to the boys, have a look at these cars here and pick one, and just remember that is what is sitting in your head. You have got a supercar. You don't know how to drive it yet, but when you fucking learn how to operate that thing properly, you will go zooming past everybody else, and you will be smarter, faster, tighter. You'll be everything that you've ever thought you can be, but you need to remember that's what's upstairs, and it's harder to drive than any other car. And so now the boys are kind of empowered with, they're neurodivergent. And I would say that I probably am as well. I'm not dyslexic by any stretch, but the way my brain operates would be terrifying if somebody was to be inside my head for a bit. Like, I just look at things differently. And I love that. And I hope that my boys, it's different now. The school that they're at, there's awesome wraparound sort of support. Like, if you were to be, like any number of students back in the day, if you were that way inclined, you'd be just called the dumb fuck of the class.
Yeah, disruptive one.
Yeah, and those are the reports that you would read, like struggles to stay on task. Well, actually, just bored as fuck, because they're operating miles ahead and thinking about things completely differently. And so, the education system's set up a lot better for them. I want to be able to, because I have the ability to, I want to spend more time with them. So that was one of the big takeaways from the last AA weekend, was like, don't lose your days to your nights, and make sure that they've only got X amount of weekends. And part of that 5 Different Types of Wealth, which is by Sahil Bloom, one of the best books that I've read. And not that I'd change anything, but if I was to have read that as a teenager, your approach to life would be completely different. Like, you actually see what matters. And I hope that more people in that age bracket read it, because there needs to be a paradigm shift in the way that we operate, where we place value.
Can you just briefly tell us what the 5 different types of wealth are?
It's along the lines of,
got them here if you fail.
Yeah. So there's obviously your physical wealth. Like, are you going to be dancing at your 80th birthday? And then your friendship. Who's going to be sitting in the front row of your funeral when you fucking pass away? How much money is enough? Because, like, what is enough? And then there might be something in their family. What are the other ones in there that I've missed?
Time,
yeah. You are kind of unaware of how much time that you have left and how you spend your time. And so this is one of those things for me, because I always say yes to everything. So there's this matrix in there just to say fuck off, and it was not fuck off, just to be more consistent. I think, and like everybody does, that there's so much time available in the future, and so you fill it up. So 24 hours actually bends out into being like 7 days, and so you pack it full of stuff, and then you get there and you realize that there is no time to do this, and that you're now under the pump, and that you don't get to see your friends or your family, that you've just overcommitted. And so there's all these different matrices in there that sort of help me be better with my time, which I'm a sucker for, man. I say yes to everything and then figure out how I can make it work. So now I say no to everything because it's easier to turn a no into a yes than a yes into a no.
And mental's the other one.
And mental, making sure that you still keep your brain ticking over. So that was one of those things. The Japanese call it ikigai, where you have a purpose, and it's a collection of all of your skill set, and then having some form of relevance within your community, and then being able to do something, get out of bed and do something every morning. Like that's keeping yourself going. Like how many people do you know that just retire and die? Because they just feel like they just no longer have anything to contribute. So the Mad Butcher, who was awesome when the boys were born, he was another one of those guys that just really kept checking in. And that's the other thing. I've got, like, every day I'll have people message me and go, hey, man, just touching base, just want you to know I love you. Yeah. And, like, I'm talking 5 to 10 good mates that are like that from all over the world that are just, hey, bro, I'm thinking of you. So when you think of somebody, message them, let you know. Because it's someone's not always ready for a conversation or there, but that might be the catalyst for the conversation. And he was really, really good. And one of the things he said as he's gotten older, he goes, my biggest fear is becoming irrelevant and people not wanting me around anymore. And he has given everything that he has to so many people. And it's interesting seeing or checking in with him and going, hey, mate, I'd love to catch up for one of your fucking magnificent breakfasts that you post on Instagram.
He does every day.
I'd love to have, even if it's a regular bit, breakfast with the Butch. And people owe him. And not in a financial sense so much, but people owe him the time. And they owe him the honour of what he has bestowed upon so many. So I think it'd be great if he had open mornings where you could just go and shout him a breakfast somewhere and take him out and just chat to him because he has got stories galore.
Mate, it's been an epic. I'm just going to read... we spoke to a lot of people in prep to this, but I just want to read what Nick Marshall said. He's the sort of the PAL's head honcho. I asked him to describe Jay. He said... he is absolutely one of a kind. I'm sure many people have said this, but he is loved by everyone, and I've rarely, if ever, met anyone like that. He's the kind of guy that can just light up a room immediately. Like he comes into the office, as an example, and he'll hug everyone and just make everyone feel like they're the centre of attention, and that's how you feel. It's a real art, and I think he just innately has that, which is really lucky for him and I suppose his vocation. He absolutely has a heart of gold, slightly prone to hyperbolic, I'd say, and never lets the truth in the way of a good yarn, but he's one of the best storytellers I've ever had the pleasure of being great mates with. He's just a likeable dude. He's got real presence, but not in a way that you might think from bravado or any of that kind of thing, because he's so humble, and humour is the backbone of everything. But then he's also a fucking amazing dad, an incredible husband. Like, he's many things to many people, but I think foundationally, he's just a fucking great guy, and people want to spend time with him. Can't wait to hear the
It's a beautiful thing to hear, eh? It really is. It's it's awesome because you never. It's It doesn't take up much. It doesn't take up much space in my mind. People's opinion of me, but to hear that's a very articulate way, and if that's how he sees me, I think I'm very, very, very lucky. Very, very lucky.
And anyone that's made it to this part of the app, I think will see exactly what he said in you. Like, yeah, it's weird because we've spoken about you a lot on the podcast as someone we look up to, and we're roughly the same age, but I the way that you speak about things and are so open, and you can articulate messages and friendship and family and sex and all this sort of thing is just inspiring. So I'm so stoked that we got this over the line, and we've shared such an epic couple of hours together.
Yeah, it's a shame. I would have loved to. I kind of feel like we haven't even really spoken about anything. It's just me having a shit chat. Like the time's flown past. Yeah. So hopefully most of it doesn't hit the floor.
No, none of it will hit the floor. I think one of the cool things I noticed, and I noted down a couple of words as I go through, which I used to do back in the day, which I haven't done as much. But you often talk about creating space for others, and it's an amazing thing to create space for others, but you also create space for yourself to think about the world and think critically about the world, and it's a really awesome thing. I love, and it's been a hallmark of a few guests that we've had, they reference the people that have mattered in their life. They reference them by name. They bring them into the story. And Nick spoke about your storytelling. It is incredible. But that acknowledgement of other people that mean a lot to you, is a really nice trait to have. And I find in episodes like this where I've been wanting to hear wisdom from somebody, you do hold a mirror up to yourself, and you go into these waves of self-reflection. But at the same time, I get to look through a window and I get to see this incredible person and the way that they choose to live their life, the decisions that they make, the outlook that they elect to have. And it's a wonderful, wonderful thing to be able to see that and also hold the mirror up to yourself and reflect on your own behaviors. So thanks for, man, just being you. Like, it's an incredibly beautiful thing that we're lucky enough to have. And yeah, man, you're just on so many levels such a I don't want to say inspiring guy because it doesn't do it justice, but just an awesome icon to just look at and with wonder.
Thanks for having me, lads. Like I said, this has become a massive Dutch rudderfest, but it does make a massive difference, the work that you do, and I guess the open sourcing of all of these incredible minds that you get to sit with, and to be a part of that, to be a part of that collection of incredible humans is an absolute honour. And I don't know what I came into this with kind of no real thought about what I would talk about, and you can fucking probably tell. It's been awesome. I really, really, really loved it, and congratulations on all your success thus far, and this is just the beginning. That's the exciting part. That's just awesome, man. Really, really, really stoked for you guys, eh?
Cheers, Jay.
Love your work, fellas. Love yous.